beauty flow, for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee.
Well, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and begin. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the legislative chambers, and there is also an automatic external defibrillator that is available on the back wall of the legislative chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin with the agenda for the Douglas County Health Center Board of Trustees, and I will turn this over to Commissioner Duda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is our periodic update of the HMA recommendations from the Health Center, and this meeting will be conducted in compliance with Nebraska's open meetings laws, a copy of which is on the back wall. Burl, would you please call the roll? Here. Here.
Here. Here. Trustee Boyle.
Thank you. We now turn to our director, Jim Turville. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, trustees. I placed at your seat there a copy of the HMA update as of today. And just to go through some of those items and kind of bring you up to speed on where we are and what progress we are making. The laundry contract, CSI will be taking over our laundry as of November 10th. Last week, some of the staff went down and took a look at the laundry facilities again and made sure that we got to know people down there and saw how it was going to be processed and handled. Regarding electronic health record, we have a meeting this afternoon, or actually a teleconference this afternoon at 3 o'clock. There's one issue we need to still resolve with Meditech, and that is the way it interfaces and meets the needs of our pharmacy staff, and the conference call is to try and flesh that out. So we'll be working on that this afternoon. Until that's done, I have not signed off on it yet. So
and again, Diane Wallace is assisting you with
Diane Wallace is there,
this.
yes, sir.
Good.
She is.
Excuse me, Jim, did you say, I couldn't hear you, how it interfaces with something?
Yeah, how it interfaces with our pharmacy. It does very, very well with the inpatient side of the pharmacy service, but we're not really comfortable with the fact that it doesn't handle the outpatient side as seamlessly as we would like it to be. So that's what we're talking about.
Sounds like a big deal. I hope you get it resolved.
We're working on it. They've got some solutions for it, so
okay.
Just want to make sure it does what it says it will do. So
no kidding.
It's a large commitment. So
yeah,
thank you for the question. Diane is here. Will be here shortly. If you have any questions, you certainly can ask her of those. Also, short-term rehab. You have on your agenda today a selection to make, Select Rehab. It's on the county board agenda for us to recommend to you to approve the contract with Select Rehab. Select Rehab is a provider of services for short-term rehabilitation, PTOT, and speech. As you know, in the past 3 years, we've had Encore Rehabilitation. This is a change, and the change was based upon interviews, based upon reference checks. There's one provider in town, I won't mention the name, but it's a great corporation, great facility, provide quality care, and this particular vendor does provide all of the therapy services for this company and for all the facilities that they own. Our medical director, Dr. Brenda Keller, has worked at the other facility, and she knows and Select very, very well, and she does highly recommend them. So I place a lot of credence in that. So that is our recommendation to you, and if you have any questions, we certainly will address those for you.
Thank you. And that will come up during the Board
Yes,
of
sir,
Commissioners
it will.
meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
It's on the consent agenda for today.
Good.
And also, our Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Nebraska, our United Healthcare contracts have been approved, thanks to you, and they are in place. We are just wrapping up the final pieces of the Coventry contract, and Coventry was purchased by Aetna. So that contract, the main contract for the short-term rehab services is in place. The one it is not yet is for the physician's services. So we can bill them for the doctor's care that they provide to the patients when they provide services to them in short, while they're on a qualifying stay for short-term rehabilitation. So that will come before you probably in the next week or two. Oh, excuse me. It'll go to the trustees first at the end of this month, and it'll come to you the next day.
All right, thank you.
Next county board meeting.
Excuse me, I think Trustee Kraft has a
Certainly.
question here.
Not a question, just a comment of praise. I had met a friend maybe it was a week ago, I don't remember which day, but she was very appreciative of the short-term rehab and was talking about how wonderful the care was and how caring everybody was. So the first review I've received has been excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate hearing that. And it's due to the staff and the care that they provide. So it's
Yes.
And it has been a paradigm shift for us. It's it's a different type of service, but it's been very, very good. We had some yesterday. We had a luncheon meeting with a plastic surgeon in town. And we had one of his patients in our facility, and that patient went back to him and raved about the quality of care and that she was very pleased, and very nice accommodations. So he's going to be making referrals to us as well. So just things like that, just by going out and talking with them, and the reputation is preceding us. So that is good to hear. So
Good.
Thank you for the compliment.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments?
Trustee Borgeson.
Up in the August 28th, 2014 section of our readout here.
Yes.
These were the priorities that came out of the meeting that Commissioner Duda and I had with
Correct.
you and staff and our staff. And so I'd like to get that meeting going, but do we need an approval at this end like we did last time to say that we can move forward with these initiatives? I mean, last time we did like a resolution saying
Right, formally adopting
or whatever, so could I make a motion that we accept these recommendations, the HMA recommendations to move forward on?
Second.
Because it says update and action.
Yeah, I would think that would be appropriate. I mean, there's nothing in here binding, it's just saying, look into these things, and yeah, that seems appropriate.
Okay, I just didn't want to do anything with the meeting until we had kind of had the discussion here and said, yeah, that was good to move forward. So I'll get that set up as soon as, if this passes.
Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Questions or comments to the motion? Trying to formalize where our next steps. Then Burl, would you please call the vote?
Chair Duda?
Yes.
Trustee Rogers?
Yes.
Trustee Tusha?
Yes.
Trustee Borgeson?
Yes.
Trustee Morgan?
Yes.
Trustee Shaw?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's all that I have, unless you have anything for me.
No? No.
Awesome.
I think
Thank you very much.
Quickly, the short-term rehab, I mean, that's the big thing going on right now with the recommendations. And just, I mean, about a 20-second sketch of where we're at on the short-term rehab. I mean,
Okay.
it's taking off great. Where are we at? What's coming?
All of the beds are open, all 22 of them. We have a census today of 10. It has been as high as 11. And 11 was when we had only 11 beds available, but now we have all 22 that are available. So we are running into a bit of a difficulty with staffing. It's nothing uncommon. I've shared this with you at the Board of Trustees meetings previously as well. And there's a shortage of staffing throughout a lot of nursing homes in the area. Even the one facility or the corporation I was talking about that has Select as their provider, that entity also is having difficulty finding staff. So something we have to work through, and maybe we have to have our own CNA class again. That seems to be the biggest shortage is nursing assistants. And we did have that one time, produced quality nursing assistants. Facilities in town compliment us on the quality, and they would like to have us or contract with us at that time to do all the training for them. But we can certainly do that again in the future if we have to do that.
Okay, so the short-term rehab is up and running, but
It is.
we need more people, particularly
Yes.
nursing assistants.
Correct.
Thank you.
And Mary Paul's here, our Director of Nursing. If you have any questions for her, she can certainly address those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. That is for the long-term care side of things. I think we have an update coming on the Community Mental Health Center now as well. And we welcome its director, Sherry Glassnap. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, Chair Duda. Good morning, trustees. wait for a second for that to warm up. In front of you, you have our update, the last 2 pages. See that? So the audience can see, hopefully. These are the outcomes that were approved by the board, and they're in conjunction with our outcomes that we turn into Region 6 behavioral health care as well. We have far exceeded our baseline, so I'm very pleased with the day treatment program at this point in time. So we'll go through these quickly. The first one is that the patients will report at a minimum 90% satisfaction with the program upon discharge of services. And this quarter, July, August, and September, 100% of the individuals reporting indicated they were satisfied with the program. And we did set these high, but so far we're exceeding those, so we're excited about that. The second one is that 90% of day treatment patients will report that they receive timely access into service. Receiving timely access into behavioral health services is very important within the Region 6 network. And 100% of our patients stated from point of referral to point of admission into the program that they felt that it was timely access into that service. The third one is 65% of day treatment patients will experience a reduction in symptoms and improved functioning. We measure this through an evidence-based tool called Basis 24, and 73% of individuals completing the Basis 24 had a reduction in symptoms that were in the day treatment program, and that's measured at point of intake and then at point of discharge. So that's very good as well. The next one, 90% of day treatment patients will not require psychiatric inpatient while receiving services in the day treatment program. 90% is really high in my opinion, but we got 100%. So we were very excited about that nobody needed to be re-hospitalized while they were receiving services. We see that frequently in behavioral health care where there's a high point of recidivism, so that's something that we're trying to target to help people stay out of acute care. The next one is 85% of day treatment patients will not require psychiatric inpatient care within 30 days following the completion of the program. And 92% of the individuals completing the day treatment program within 30 days after did not require psychiatric inpatient care. So that is very good as well. The next one is 80% of day treatment patients will have established informal and formal supports upon discharge from the program, and 100% of the patients had established informal and formal supports. Research indicates that having those informal and formal supports is very important to help reduce recidivism. So that's good as well. And then the final one is that 80% of patients will successfully complete the program. And we have certain things that are set up that defines what successful completion is. The region helped us establish those guidelines, and 92% of the individuals completing the program met all of those goals to be considered successfully completed. For fiscal year 15, the region has allotted $100,541 for the day treatment program. That is an increase from what they had allotted last year. We're excited because we've pulled down $40,103, so we're at 40%. Which exceeds where we should be at, so that means the program's being utilized very well. We will be meeting with the region here shortly to ask to see if we can increase the funds that we receive from the region for the day treatment program. This does not include the Medicaid individuals we've served with Medicaid. So fiscally, I think the program's doing very well, pulling down the funds that were allotted, and I think we'll be able to advocate to receive some additional funding for that program from the region.
Great.
Any questions on our outcome measures? No? Okay, just quick, I wanted you to see, we ask the clients in the program to give us feedback about the program, how you feel you're doing, do you know what medications, do you know your diagnosis, what do you think we could improve with the program? On the next page, I just pulled some bullets from the last quarter of what individuals said about the program. So you could see what our patients are saying. And some of the things they stated, I can better use coping skills and try to focus. Well is not only your body, it also consists of your mind, which is very important for people to understand that your behavioral health is part of your whole. And so that's very important. Each class was well put together and understood. Class focused on illness and how to cope better. It makes me feel better. You guys are beautiful. That's the day treatment staff, so we're very proud of the day treatment staff as well. Learn to stay on my medications, extremely important. We hear people coming back into the hospital over and over again or into psychiatric ERs, and the reason they're there is that they've gotten off of their medications. So learning to stay on their medications. Good staff to work with. I have multiple diagnoses. I am aware of which meds are prescribed for each, which again, extremely important. If I'm on a medication for cholesterol, I need to know the reason I'm on that medication and why it's going to help. If somebody's on a medication for bipolar disorder, the reason that they're going to take that. That education helps them understand why they need to take that every day. Even if they're feeling okay, they still need to take it. More patients. I have more patients understanding less outbursts and negative feelings. I have no suicidal thoughts. Life is worth living. And if that shows the impact of the program, somebody comes into the program and they feel like my life just isn't worth living, to have them leave and say, my life is worth living is pretty important. Don't make any changes, keep up the good work. My emotions are much more normal and under control. Clearer thinking, able to make decisions without depression. Lifelong process. I recognize triggers, symptoms, and respond accordingly. Learn how to control my anger and coping skills to refrain from consuming alcohol. And this one I put last because I think it's the most important. I can reunite with my family. So.
I have a couple of questions here. Trustee Boyle?
Yes, I want to really tell you what a day brightener your report is. First of all, your presentations are, not to take away from Mr. Tourville, but his are enthusiastic as well. But I really want to impress upon you again that the work that you do is my priority, along with your work with corrections, dealing with those who suffer from mental illness. And I can't say often enough that not everyone who suffers from mental illness is violent. A lot of silent things are going on with depression and other things that we need to really help people. So I'm very much supportive of what you do, and it's not an open checkbook, but it's pretty close, okay? For me, anyway. Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you, Trustee Boyle. Trustee Morgan?
I just wanted to express my thanks to the staff and all of you for the work that you're doing in such an important area. And we really appreciate that. I know I can speak for everyone on the board. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. The support that we see from the Board of the Trustees is very important. And I think the comments that we have here from the patients in the program really tells the whole story of the support that you guys provide our community and the patients being served. Any other questions?
Trustee Borgeson?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice to see all the hits you got here on the measurable outcomes.
Yeah.
But after the 30-day one, you said inpatient care within 30 days following the completion of the day treatment program. That's deemed as successful if that inpatient doesn't occur.
Yes.
Okay. Admission doesn't occur.
Mm-hmm.
What about thereafter? Is there any tracking mechanism to see if are we losing them at 60 days, 90 days? Are we not tracking it all, or?
We're not currently tracking that, but that's a report that I can run. And I think we can get that information in a fairly easy manner. I hate to say that with Mike, do you think we can get that information in a fairly easy manner? I say that and
then I'll sign it.
yeah. So and we can report that.
Okay, I'm just curious to see if there's a time frame to which all of a sudden we see them coming in again.
Mm-hmm. So would you like 60, 90? 180?
Let's do 60 and 90.
60 and 90?
And then the second, we had talked about when we were revamping the program to do 2 curriculums, establishing those for those that are, with a serious persistent mental illness and those that maybe are at a lower level of need. Did we get that established yet, or are we still working on that?
We have the curriculum, and we can roll it out at any time. It's having the staff to be able to run 2 groups at the same time. And I would have to consult with Mike, and we'd have to go back and run some numbers to see if we would need one full-time therapist to make sure that we have the staff to be able to do that. And then I can get that information to you. But the curriculum is ready. It's been developed and approved. Our Dr. Gillespie, who is our psychologist, has gone through that and worked with the staff as well. and agrees that it's a good, solid curriculum. We do have individuals that could benefit from that. I met with a young lady yesterday who is in our day treatment program, and she is definitely somebody who could benefit from the alternative track, because some of the symptomology of the patients in our current group is beginning to agitate her.
Right. And that's what I heard. I mean, that's why we had the whole discussion about the two-track system. And so maybe at the next Board of Trustees meeting, if we could maybe see numbers
Certainly.
to see what that would involve, see if we could wing it. And then probably check with, I don't think reimbursement would change any if we do it that way, but you might want to check with Region 6 to make sure. Or that may be what we talk to Region 6 about in terms of the extra dollars, is that we want to establish a second track. And that would be a good thing.
That's a great idea.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Okay.
No, thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
thank you for the update, Chair.
Keep it up.
Trustee Rogers.
Jim, I meant to ask this to you, but I wanted to ask it based on the conversation that happened at the last Board of Trustee meeting with the group that presented. Because I saw an article last night, and it basically is talking about CMS and its focus on home care and nursing home quality, a bill. The exact bill is like the Medicare Post-Acute Care Transformation Act of 2014, and it talks about a lot of the stuff that was mentioned in that presentation, like readmittance and stuff like that. And again, I just want to bring it up. I'm just wondering at sometime next trustee meeting or so if somebody can look at it and give me, and just think about the fact too of that question about just the electronic medical records and all this other stuff with the data, because when I read through it, it's all tying there, and this data feedback and all that stuff to measure. And I know we said a year, but every time I see this stuff come across and I hear this year number, I'm like just wondering, are we gonna be able to get there?
Well, certainly we will take a look at that and try to get information back to you regarding that.
Because my understanding is he's supposed to sign the bill yesterday, but it didn't. It's in sign, so I'm assuming it's going to come sometime
So
soon.
yeah, it will be coming, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the heads up.
Thank you, Chris. Anything else anybody has for the trustees? Citizens' comments. Is there anybody wishing to address this board for anything not on that agenda? We have no need of executive session to the best of my knowledge, and so therefore I will declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you all. And I return things to the proper chair.
We'll wait for a quick switch here. Good morning. We'll begin with the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Tusha.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Here, item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, September 30th, 2014, and item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, October 21st, 2014, as a date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rules or increased value on property.
Motion for A and B?
Second?
Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Commissioner Boyle.
I'm sorry. My computer's totally acting up here.
Motion passes.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to resolutions. There are eight, D through K. Is there a motion to approve? Commissioner Boyle?
Yes, I had a couple of questions.
Okay.
Is Mike here? Mike Goodwillie here? Well,
He was.
okay, well, I
He
guess
might
that's
be in the hallway.
a sign of things to come. There's a CAC 14122, which is Woodman Center of Omaha, and this is not unlike the Knights of Columbus Hall or some insurance, the Lutheran Brotherhood, if they have these kinds of facilities. There's the Lodge. It's out on 76th Street. And I know that we denied the permissive exemption. I'm not sure how I voted on that, but I really think we ought to reconsider that because I think it does meet the test for being nonprofit and should be allowed the exemption. My computer has really gone on the fritz. I think it's all apologies to anybody named Fritz, but anyhow, here it is here. It's, I can't pull up the thing actually, but hi, Mike.
Good morning, Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor's Office. I'm sorry, I was
all right.
out in the hall with a taxpayer. Which properties are you asking about?
Woodman Center of Omaha. I know that I said we...
Woodman and South Council?
Yeah, 76th Street.
Both were denied based on that Fraternal Benefit Society statute in Chapter 44 that we relied upon to deny the other Woodman properties.
Which are both? You mean the big building and this?
All the Woodman properties.
Okay, well...
And the other ones are not on this list because they already have a taxable value.
Well, I don't know about the other ones, but this one seems to be operating as a nonprofit from what I can see.
It may, but I think it's in Chapter 44, 190, whatever the number was, that talks about the property of fraternal benefit societies, and it says those fraternal benefit societies are exempt from taxes except for real estate and business property.
Okay, well,
so the theory is
that's ridiculous.
The theory is you have a fraternal benefit society that owns it. That statute is what applies.
Okay, well, it's probably not something we can or should debate today, but it's something I want to look into and bring it back and see if we can reconsider that, because I don't know how this is different from other religious or other nonprofit insurance groups. I know that the Lutheran Church has a very active insurance program for their
yes,
members.
But they don't own any real property that's exempt.
Well, you took that right out of my mouth. So I just wonder if they were here, would you treat them the same way?
Absolutely. In light of that statute, we would. If they're a fraternal benefit society, that was our basis.
Okay, that keeps going off though. Anyhow, well, we'll talk about it later, but it's not the time to do it today, but I did want to bring it up.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Why don't you get a chair and sit right behind me here? Wait. Sit here. You sit in this chair. Mike, I had
another one.
I do. I've got. Let's see. It's this. I'm just curious about this CAC 14090, which is a lease of property from the state. Do you know? Can you talk about that a little bit? I couldn't figure out where it was, or.
Yeah, give me a second. My understanding is that there's it's leased to a private individual and used by that individual.
So
therefore it's not being used for a public purpose, is my understanding.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm going to be abstaining because there's a Holy Name Housing is on here under Village Crown 2 LP, and I used to be on their board for 20 years. And I'm not comfortable voting on that property. So don't exempt it. I'll just abstain.
Okay.
Motion approved?
Second.
That include adjournment?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Please vote.
Oops, I voted yes. I have to abstain. I'm just one of those Democrats. I vote yes all the time. Duda was saying that, wasn't she? He said that.
Motion passes.
We will move to the agenda for the Douglas County Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle, Commissioner Duda, Commissioner Kraft, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Commissioner Tusha.
Here.
Madam Chair.
Here, item 1A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, September 30th, 2014, and item B, approval of claims submitted for payment processed through Tuesday, October 14, 2014.
So moved for approval.
Second. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Consent agenda, items A through P for a total of 16 items.
Madam Chair.
Is there, Teresa?
Commissioner Teresa Urick, Douglas County Attorney's Office. I'm asking that the board would consider laying over item A1. That's the NRD Dam Site 15A project.
And we're laying that over.
Unfortunately, there's a number of meetings that are not set, and so I'm going to ask for November 18th. I know that sounds like a long ways out, but I think in that interim time, there are 3 meetings, 3 Tuesdays where there are no meetings, so it's not as long as it initially appears.
And we laid it over for the first time for a meeting with Washington, and that took place. And so what are we laying it over for now?
There were additional questions at the open meeting with Washington County, and those questions have not yet been resolved.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Commissioner Boyle?
Yes, I was going to ask the same. We had a whole slew of whereases that we asked to be included, and they're not in this. So somewhere we need to get those added, and I'd like to see them before it's meeting time. Also, I'm really curious. I looked at this lake, and I'd like to find out if Douglas County has the authority to declare it dedicated parkland on the shores of this lake. I'd like to see that, so that it's open to the public and has maximum use. I don't know how clean the water is going to be. Mike Ryan says it's not going to be very good. But I would like to see that dedicated parkland around there so that it's open to the public and for the use of the public exclusively, and not sold to developers to build houses.
And it's my understanding that this particular dam site is not going to be another Bennington Lake site. So there is no developer, there's no private-public partnership in developing, and it is fully accessible 100% to the public.
Well, the history has been pretty bad about accessibility, so I would just like to lock it in so that if you make it dedicated parkland, they really can't do anything with it. It has to be parkland. I don't know. We could ask the NRD to do that.
I don't know if we can.
But we could ask the NRD, and I don't know who else would. I don't know if they have the authority to do that, but I'd like to have our legal staff look into that. Who has the authority to name the property around the lake dedicated parkland? And then we'll talk further about how far back it goes, how deep the park would be. It looks really nice on the map. Color map is attached. It looks like it's got a lot of potential for children and families to really enjoy it.
Okay, so that's one more question. Teresa, did you understand what he's asking?
I think so.
Okay.
Thanks.
So this will be brought back November 18th. So with that, is everybody comfortable with including in the motion, laying that one over until November 18th and approving the rest of the consent agenda?
Is that 2014 or 2015?
Who's the second?
2020.
2020?
Madam
I'm
Chair,
surprised you didn't say that.
the second on that motion?
Yes, mine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
There was one other question, Teresa, that I had on that. There's the whole issue of when we denied the tax exemption. Is that one of those questions that still need to be answered?
Teresa York, Douglas County Attorney's Office. The answer is yes and no, and I know that sounds funny. That question isn't directly related to the agreement that's going to be heard by the board on the 18th, but that is something that is pending before Turk at this time on a separate procedural track.
Okay, thanks. I remember that now. Thank you. Okay, next, we have recognition and proclamations. And there's one for cybersecurity, and Commissioner Rogers, since you are the chair of our National Association Cybersecurity Task Force, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I'd like to move for its approval first, and then I can say something.
Second.
I had the benefit of going last Tuesday to the National Association of State Information Officers last day meeting, and was called MSISAC, a multi-state information analysis sharing center meeting. And basically that was a cybersecurity conference. I think for some that might have been watching the news, JP Morgan Chase got exposed for about 6 to 7 million records. And just all along the days from Home Depot to a whole lot of people are getting exposed in regards to cybersecurity. And I guess the thing that I want the board to consider this year, and I know it's, we have the emergency management planning, but I'd actually like Paul Johnson to formally try to incorporate a cyber security strategy to the emergency management planning, because the fact that we do electronic business with banks and financial institutions makes everybody connected vulnerable to that piece, and I think that we need to be prepared in that respect in case something comes in that realm. So I think Commissioner Borgeson and myself for the last 2 years have been able to dig into it. The more I learn, it's definitely a new plank of emergency management, and it's something that, you know, counties and businesses are being accessible to getting hacked all the time. And the question now is not so much if you are, but when and how quickly you respond. So if you know, Paul's listening, in particular to Patrick, I think we need to talk to him about having that developed as part of our process. And also, it may be a good point of conversation for us to talk to our insurance providers, because they had a lengthy conversation about cybersecurity insurance, and if people get hacked, how they cover that in that respect. So I think there's probably 2 aspects we should look at.
Very good. All right. Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Morgan?
Just mention that I did attend that briefing last Thursday that the FBI had, which you're right on track. I mean, it's pretty alarming. And it's just going to, in my opinion, become much more of a challenge. I mean, they're working on this constantly, and the other side's working more constantly. So it'll be interesting. Almost too much technology. Right, Mike?
Any other questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to Finance Committee, budget from Commissioners Morgan and Duda.
I think Les Clara has something he wants to state, but I have visited with Joe Lorenz and very appreciative of the job he does, and also our office holders and directors. But everything seems to be on track. Joe, you're welcome to correct or add anything to what I've just said.
No, through the first quarter, the budget's tracking on, and you know, no significant issues have arisen. So right now we're on track.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Next is Community Services. There's one item for consideration and action for the 2014-15 Visitors Improvement Fund grant application from Love's Jazz and Art Center. Commissioner Rogers?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I want to explain this a little bit. The resolution is basically in respects to The organization, since it was established in 94, 95, has received funds out the Business Improvement Fund of somewhere around 40 to 45,000. This year I was contacted by them because they turned in their application late. I basically told them, you know, because the resolution we passed, there's nothing I can do in that respect. You have to talk to me in 4 months or so. They applied for about $100,000. What I suggested is they should have some conversations with the board to see how that goes, and my understanding they did. And my request is, it's like 10 years since they've been having funding. This is the first time, and the organization operates on the margin. So my request is for the one time, for the late time, for the time they've been late in the 10 years, if we could grant the 45 to allow them to stay operating and just keep the attraction at where it was for the last years that we supported it. The conversation I've had with them is that this is your one grace, and you know, because you've had 10 years in the system, I requested. So I'd like to ask the board support for the one-time 45 application form, and I move.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Let's see, Commissioner Tusha?
Thank you. Chris, I appreciate what you're doing here, and we did have a meeting with a gentleman from Love's Jazz and Arts Center, and as I told this gentleman, I will not be voting on this. I totally appreciate what they're doing, what they want to do, what they're trying to do with the stars on the walk and trying to get all the people downtown to look at it. But I know we went through this a couple years ago, and I was very adamant about that we made very, very strict rules and regulations about deadlines with this, and we did approve a few of them. Well, the board approved a few of them a couple years ago. I, again, did not. So I'm going to stand behind the rules and regulations, that there's no exceptions on the lateness of this. And so, but I do, again, appreciate what you're trying to do and what they're trying to do, and I wish everybody the best of luck. But I just wanted to say that I'm just going to gracefully vote no on this.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, excuse me, I'm very familiar with the Love Jazz Center, and have supported it even prior, I think, to its making an application. Preston Love was pretty interesting, very interesting man. He was a master musician, recorded lots of music with some really people of his stature in North Omaha at in the ballroom there at 24th and Lake. Really a rich history. And as happens so often, Preston Love was really kind of unknown and certainly unappreciated here in Omaha, but he was an international musician. I mean, the audiences that he pulled all around the world, in Europe and in Asia, was just remarkable. I knew him very well. And I know about this organization. It's very positive. It's interestingly, I was talking a couple nights ago to some friends who went to an event there, and one of the persons that was in this dinner group said, are there any white people that go there? And of course this lady was white, and she said, yes, it's very open and it's very diverse, it's very pleasant, and it's safe. So I think it's a terrific organization. I know that the deadline was missed. They have a history of applying and using those funds very well. I've been there many times myself. So I am very, very much an enthusiastic supporter of their organization, and I'll be voting yes to give them these funds. Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers?
I just want to, I acknowledge where Commissioner Tusha is, and I just want her to know I respected the resolution and respect this conversation the chair and I had. That's why, you know, when we had the conversation, they could not come. They needed to wait till the process was over, so it was the 4 months. So I just want to be clear to the board. I'm considering this this is not in the process. So I'm just acting outside the process for that degree. So I wanted you to know I respect the resolution and where it was.
Thank you. Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, and part of the problem we have with government is this inflexibility. Sometimes there need to be some exceptions. If the Love Museum does not get this money, there's always the chance that they will not make it through this year. And to see an organization that had that has had so many volunteer hours over the past decade, still struggling and providing so much to the community that they're in and the community as a whole. In other words, all of Omaha, all of Nebraska, all of the Midwest. Because there are not significant minority representations within the Midwest. And we need to encourage them that I too will support this resolution.
And I actually agree with everything that's been said, except for what Commissioner Tusha said, because when we even passed the resolution, when we passed the resolution, I was of the opinion that, there's times where there's exceptions to the rules, and each one of us, I would be shocked if each one of us has never been late on something. And so, to me, for us to make a process harder for our people just doesn't make sense to me. The executive director, Tim Clark, has done absolute phenomenal things with that organization and with the Jazz Museum. I've been there. It's wonderful, and it's kind of the pillar, the post, the one anchor of that area to which they're trying to revitalize that whole 24th and Lake area. And while county boards are not generally in economic development stuff, this is one where I think Douglas County can certainly support a organization that really has been able to bring life back into an area that was so needed. And so I will be supporting it as well. Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, Tim Clark is in the audience now. He wasn't when we started. Tim, did you want to address us or say anything? You don't have, you're good? Okay.
Okay. There was a motion and a second. Please vote.
Oh, is it from you? I'm sorry, I'll take it after I vote. Okay, Mike, now I'm going to disconnect you.
We will move to the, you're welcome. Thank you for being here, Mr. Clark. The next is the Human Resources. The item 1 is the weekly personnel report from Civil Service as presented, if there are no questions or comments. Next is the weekly, I'm sorry, Commissioner Boyle.
Well, we were going to be talking about the assessor's office, but it isn't on the agenda. So do you want to do something?
Yeah, it is.
It is? Hold on.
It's number 5.
I don't have it here. It is? Okay. Oh, okay, great. Got it. Never mind. I do. Got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next is the weekly CAO report on staff assaults.
Nothing to report.
And then next is the legislative issues. And as I stated last meeting, I'm going to ask Marcos to come down and give us a presentation of our items to which we will discuss and then approve our tentative 2015 legislative initiatives. And we will, the reason I'm putting tentative in front of there is because it's still early, and that we have our Tri-County retreat on October 23rd, which there may be some items that we want to come back and discuss. And there may be some additional items that come forward from our department heads or elected officials. So,
And then
is that the Pinnacle Bank Arena?
Oh, okay.
The new arena?
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Marcos?
Okay. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Marcos C. Martin, Douglas County Labor and Legislation. Commissioners, what I handed out here in those folders that you just received, that is essentially the tentative list of all priorities that are all comments that have been made to me over the interim since the end of the 103rd session. And so I've kind of just compiled them. I've tried to make them where or summarize what your comments on the record have been, and some of these collection, this has been collected from committee meetings and from board meetings, from the Health Center Board of Trustee meetings, those. So just try to summarize what your intents were and whatnot. And I know you've already seen these documents, but in that folder, I was going to say there are 3 documents. They're all labeled A, B, and C. And my presentation is really just meant to be kind of a working discussion for you all to review what you have submitted to me or what other departments through the county attorney's office have submitted. So I can begin. I can do whatever you think. Okay.
Commissioner Rogers.
Oh.
Before you,
okay.
At least 122. It was on there, and I think, unless the board has otherwise, 22, I think you can remove that. I think that's a done deal.
Number 22 in my document, or in the document that I handed out.
Sent out yesterday, so I'm hoping it still lines up the same.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's different because I broke them up by topic, so it'd be easier for the board. So if you can use.
Well, it's the one that refers to the FCC and the issue with the jails. I think that's done and moved.
Which one is this?
I don't know where it is on the new sheet because I'm looking off the one that he sent out last night, but.
Here, I'll pull it up.
Well, let's go in order here. Let's just.
My fault.
Okay.
Nope, that's fine. Let's.
Yeah.
So that doesn't happen. Everybody can follow easy.
Okay. Commissioners, in my slideshow, the numbers, they are the same in line. Document A and document B, all the initiatives are the same number.
Okay.
So you can follow off of either document you want. If I go off the slideshow, they're all the same.
Okay.
So A or B from the folder, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any music to go with this?
No music. You know me, I'm just try to be as clear and concise as I can.
This is really great.
So the first 5 that I listed on here, they were not submitted by commissioners. The first 5 items, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they were submitted through the county attorney's office. However, I just wanted to comment that the majority, well, quite a few of these were submitted from a department to the county attorney and then forwarded on to me. So as an example, number 1 here, it says support revising election section, chapter 32, to withdraw a bond off the election ballot. This was something that Mr. Phipps's office and the county attorney noticed that, yes, there are provisions to put a bond on the ballot. There is not language to remove a bond from the ballot. So just something that I am presenting to the commissioners. And I was also going to comment to Commissioner, Ms. Urick said that it was fine for you to ask her questions on these 5 beginning items as well if you have additional questions. So
okay.
I'll go on to number 2. Number 2 is a Sheriff Office Merit Commission. The provisions in Chapter 23 specify authorized representative. I think that what they were looking for was to have it specified in statute that it's the Merit Commission's attorney would be the person authorized to issue subpoenas, collect information like that. Teresa, did you have any additional on this particular item?
I didn't have a specific person that the sheriff's office told me about, but
okay.
The issue raised itself this past year in that rather than having to convene the whole commission, it would help have a clarity with regards to who or what is the authorized representative for subpoena purposes.
Okay. The third item on there deals with revenue and taxation. It would revise Chapter 77. This was brought to my attention, I guess, or at least it's my impression, for the county attorney to save time in filing fees. As it's written right now, for every single one of the foreclosures, they pay a separate filing fee and a separate petition. So this would allow them to pay one filing fee, put it on one petition for multiple of the foreclosures.
Oh.
So that's, again, was submitted to me through the county attorney's office.
Commissioner Boyle?
I had a question on item number 2.
Okay.
I want to be sure that an authorized representative is someone, I don't understand, they have any problem serving or issuing subpoenas? I mean, what's the deal here? Don't they have an attorney doing this, or what's going on? They don't do that many subpoenas, do they? Anybody know anything about this? Who's our representative on the Merit Commission?
I'd have to defer to Teresa if she has any more background info on it.
Teresa, you're at County Attorney's Office. All I can say, Commissioner, is that during the past year, there was an incident about getting a subpoena issued, and then there was some difficulty in bringing the whole Merit Commission together. And so I think there was the conversation about clarifying the statutory language about an authorized representative who could issue a subpoena. That's
Okay, so
the information I have.
it's going to be one person, a named person?
I think that it would be wise to consult with the Sheriff's Office on their take on that, because the Merit Commission directly affects.
Well, I think issuing subpoenas is a pretty big deal, so I've got reservations about that, but if it's necessary, I'd like to have more information about, who's going to be authorizing the issuing of a subpoena.
I agree.
I'm sure it won't be abused, but it just doesn't, I'm not comfortable with it.
Right.
I'd like you to name that, maybe it's the chief deputy sheriff, or it's somebody at the personnel division or something. Name somebody we can rely on, that we don't have somebody issuing a subpoena that, I don't know, doesn't have I don't know. I'm not comfortable with the way it is. Please, I'd like to see naming somebody.
Okay, and I agree with that. So on that one, let's hold that one and for further information and details. Okay?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay.
I'll get some more info on it.
Okay.
And Commissioners, I want to reiterate, since this is kind of a dialogue.
That's good.
My purpose here is just to present to you what I've collected. I'm not advocating, for any of these in particular, et cetera.
No. You're the messenger. You're the messenger. We're going to kill the messenger.
So, yeah, absolutely. If you have duties for me to do and follow up, let me know on these.
Okay. Just a second. There's another question.
Okay.
Commissioner Kraft.
Yes. Item 3.
Okay.
I, as a property owner, how is this going to affect me if I am in foreclosure? Is this going to make it harder for me to find out, or to petition, or to protest, or do whatever I need to do?
My impression is this affects the county attorney's side and what the filing fees that we pay. Again, on this, for the first 5, I would defer to Ms. Hurard.
The number 3 affects, Marcos is correct, Teresa, your County Attorney's Office. With regards to number 3, rather than doing one, it's a cost issue, and it's also a paperwork and time issue, in that rather than doing one petition with multiple foreclosures, there's going to have to be one petition for each foreclosure, and so it increases filing fees, it increases dockets, it increases administrative work. And it would be more efficient and concise if multiple foreclosures could be in one petition.
But I, as a property owner, will not be affected in any way.
I think the notice requirements would be the same, Commissioner, whether it was whether it was filed singly or in multiple.
And when you say multiple, how many? I don't have a clue how many foreclosures we do each year, or in each filing.
I don't have an exact number off the top of my head.
Because if I had to read through a list of 150 people when I received this notice, yes, some people have difficulty reading, and they'll just ignore it, not understanding it.
So do you want this one held over too for just a little bit more information?
Just a little bit more. Yes, I would like that.
Okay.
That's number 3.
Okay.
Okay, got it. Yeah, number 3.
All right. All right,
All
number
right,
4.
on to 4 and 5. Commissioners, 4 and 5, again submitted by the county attorney. Number 4 was submitted, I believe, through the juvenile division. And the purpose of number 4 would be to revise Chapter 43 to allow the sharing of juvenile court records and any other pertinent info held by agencies, specifically sharing, adding language to the statute to address specifically sharing info with an individual who is the subject of that record. So that was brought to us through the juvenile division. I do have a star on this too. I know that Teresa and I had spoke about this yesterday, and I don't know if she had any other background information on the item.
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. With regards to number 4, the statute is a limiting statute on allowing the disclosure of information, and the idea, I believe, behind this was allowing children, once they're at the age of majority, if they wanted to get access to their records, that they would have an easier time of doing that. And then I believe there were some qualifiers. For example, attorney work product, things of that nature would not be released.
Yes. Good. Okay.
Another comment on these 5, which it's also my understanding that the county attorney has submitted this to the Nebraska County Attorneys Association for their legislative packet as well. So just for you all to know.
Good.
Then going on to number 5, this relates to public records. Again, submitted through the county attorney's office. It's to add some structure to the open records, I guess, collections. I guess what our rules are for collection and production of public records. So it would essentially build in where the suggestion is make the first 4 cumulative hours per month free of charge, then add in language to create some kind of fee structure. The background on this is that it's occurring more and more that there are blanket type public records requests, like all emails within a 6-month period or all faxes within a 6-month period, but not specific to a document in particular that someone is looking for. They just want on a X topic all faxes related in the past 6 months or something. So it's increasingly causing a time concern for staff. And often our public records statutes don't address those issues, like long-term collection issues. Again, this is a county attorney item that I was going to have Teresa comment on if she had anything background-wise.
Teresa, do you have anything? Because I have issues with this. I mean, to me, they're public records. The public should have access to them when need be. And I don't want to put barriers or financial things that are going to make it hard for them to get the document. So I'm not real supportive of this. Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I am and I am not. I understand the burden these requests produce. I've been involved in them on the wrong end of them, and they really are tedious, to say the least. And not necessarily public records, but things that I've had to put together, that covering all faxes and all this sort of thing, and records that, oh my goodness, it's very difficult. But what I'd like to see is maybe a ceiling put on this, and maybe also the ability for the person asking for the records to ask for relief from pain due to their financial situation. I mean, if, for example, let's say that a child, a young adult comes in and wants to see some records, whatever sort they may be, involving her or him, and maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's, I don't know what it might be. But, and this is a person working at a minimum wage job, vote yes, that they could ask for relief because they don't have a lot of money. So,
well, I would like this one to be laid over, just so we can talk about those very issues a little bit more. See what other examples you come up with.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Marco.
As directed. So on to number 6. Commissioners, now we're into the other section that is all commissioner submitted. So if you look in your packets, the items now are listed by the commissioner that submitted that information, and then some of them I have the date when you submitted it. I broke it up by topic on this section. So starting with number 6, this is under elections. Commissioner Boyle had submitted an item allowing counties to choose whether or not to have a portion of their elections conducted exclusively by mail-in or drop-off ballot. Number 7 is also relating to elections. Removes obsolete language that require the rotation of candidate names, precinct by precinct. The statute has had that in there, I believe, for numerous years, and was submitted as that language is no longer necessary, I guess.
Okay.
Can I ask
Commissioner Boyle and then
Well,
Commissioner Rogers.
the reason I have these in there, excuse me, the first one is that I've spoken to the election commissioner about the first one that allows us to do mail ballots. I really would like to see us have the authority to conduct all elections by mail. This last election we were sued because someone fell at a chair collapsed at a polling place. I won't say anything any more about that case, but we have some liability out there that's really unnecessary. Plus, if the weather goes bad, then we have a lot of people who can't get there. I just think it's so much more efficient to send ballot applications out and get them back, pay for that instead of renting churches and places for polling places. I just think it's much more efficient. We would get ballots in earlier, the counting. It's just absolutely a game changer on saving money and getting the vote reported earlier and a cleaner election, the whole deal. And so I would like to see this number 6 being really all elections, not portions of. Smaller counties vote by mail, and the urban areas are not allowed to. The second, and it's really also brings up home rule authority, which I think is really important. I know others have talked about that. I think counties need that to do a lot of things. I mean, people, someone asked me recently about what authority we have under the ordinances, and I said we can stop jake braking, which is when trucks drive down, the big trucks drive down the hill, and Claire knows about this, put it into...
I was going to say, only on the interstate.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can drive by Claire's house all you want and jake brake, I guess, out there in the country. Anyway, so, I mean, I think home rule is really important. I'll get off this. But I think mail elections is a big deal. That'd be great. Secondly, on the rotation of names, this has a terrific history. This was proposed in the NP Dodge Fair Election Law back in the turn of the century, the early 1900s. And I've got copies of the law in my office. If anyone wants one, I'll get one to them. I sent one to every state senator. The elections were very corrupt. And when I was reading about it, it was kind of interesting because Ann's grandfather lost an election. He was a state legislator. And it was to a political machine here in Omaha. And I just love reporting this. The machine was Republican, and Ann's grandfather was not. And what happened was that it was just out of control. They took the ballots, seized some ballots, the legislature did, took them down to the floor of the legislature, opened the boxes, and the books in which the voters sign, like we do when we go vote, were in the same order in which they, by street address, and it was in the same handwriting. So it was all bogus. And one of the outcomes was there was a lot of other vote things going on that were pretty amazing about switching ballots and so forth. It was really, they worked and it produced. The one that on rotating names was there because the ability of people to read, they had a lot of foreigners voting other things, and they would tell them to vote for the name at the top. So they started rotating names. And so what happens is, it's kind of interesting, and it's based on the votes cast for the office of president or governor at the previous election, and whoever won, that party gets the name at the top. Well, guess who that is? But it does rotate, supposedly. Ann and I got ballots this time, and as happens always, all of the Republicans were at the top. It doesn't make any difference. On her ballot and mine, I mean,
people are not going to be, we know who we're voting for. This is an intelligent electorate, I hope. The cost of rotating names is a waste of money. So I know some people will be nervous. They'll say, oh my goodness, my name will never be at the top. It'll always be, second or third or eighth or something. Believe me, people are not stupid. We know who we're voting for. So this is a big deal. I think that's the end of the world, but I think it's important to upgrade these. This was put in at the turn of the century to deal with illiterate voters and to deal with, to stop machine voting. And machine, I don't mean mechanical, but I mean party machines. So I just think it's outdated. It's expensive. We need to get rid of it.
Commissioner Rogers?
No, I was going to ask him on the history. I'm answering.
You're going to ask him? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Kraft?
It's interesting. At the Cost of Government Summit put on by Governing Magazine, that was 2 weeks ago, they brought this up. And the election commissioner said that he still supports the rotation of names because it's not uncommon that a candidate comes to him and says, my name was on the bottom and that's why I lost.
Yes.
He says, and I have to explain that we rotate names and your name was on top as many times as it was on bottom, except perhaps by one because of odd numbers. He says he would never take it off, and this was in the discussion part. He would never take it off because of the paranoia of a lot of the politicians.
Well,
it might have been. I'm trying. There was somebody from Cook County there, but I don't know who made the comment. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one, Commissioner Boyle, was, does this sound all right if it reads, support legislation relating to elections to expand counties' ordinance making authority or to grant home rule authority for counties to have all elections conducted exclusively by mail-in or drop-off ballot only?
that I like.
Okay. Then the second one, are people comfortable with just moving it forward for further discussion at the Tri-County retreat and see what happens? Okay, all right. Yeah? Oh, okay. All right, so next then
Okay.
are...
I know
So-
Mike's not paranoid.
So number 6, as revised, move it forward.
Yep,
Number 7, no revision, move it forward
right.
for discussion. Okay. Okay. Next topic, 2 slides on courts and crime. Number 8, submitted back in July. I'll give you a minute to read it over, but it's support a legislative initiative to allow the sheriff to deputize director of corrections. This is for purpose of facilitating registration requirements for a sex offender. It's as mandated by the Sex Offender Registration Act in Chapter 29, or allow the county at the option of the board to designate the corrections director or designee to collect the documentation and submit it to the sheriff.
Okay.
So
it's good.
All right. Next. Commissioner Rogers?
That we were talking
Yeah.
about?
Okay. No revision, move forward?
Yep.
Okay. Number 9, Commissioner Kraft submitted this item. It is eliminating the filing fees paid to a court of jurisdiction dealing with criminal courts.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, Commissioner Borgerson and I had a meeting with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and this is one of the things that I mentioned to him, and is he got kind of a small smile on his face because most of the, not most of, a portion of the judge's retirement fund comes from these filing fees. So I think we ought to relabel this Battle Royale. So this one will have some difficulty, but I only mention that I'm in favor of it because we spend, I think, close to $600,000 a year when we file charges against people, and I'm not going to name names, but you know who I'm talking about, people who are accused of committing murder that are in our facility. We have to pay a filing fee to bring first-degree murder charges against them. And Douglas County, county attorney, we spend about $600,000 a year doing that. That's just the county attorney. So this needs to be reformed somehow.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, and well, Mike said it all. So.
Okay. Okay.
Wow.
So,
Pretty cool.
Okay.
Mike wants to just relish in that moment. A moment of silence, please.
He's been relishing it.
My fan club. Thank
Okay.
you.
Next.
All right. Number 10. It's on the next slide. Number 10, submitted by Commissioner Borgeson. It is clarify whether or not the County Board of Commissioners has the authority to contract for GAL services and to clearly address in what manner counties are to facilitate the accounting or audit of those activities. It would change two parts of statute, Chapter 23 and 43.
Okay.
Okay, move on.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
I'm just curious whether there's anything in this packet that moves the responsibility of guardian ad litems to the state, at least the funding.
No, nor is there, we've had some discussions whether or not the guardian ad litem work has to be done by attorneys, or if there's a different system. That doesn't address it. But I think the whole guardian ad litem issue is definitely going to be addressed this year because of Senator Campbell's interim study that's going on currently.
Okay.
So, what was it again that you wanted added?
Well, I just think that we ought to be asking the state, that article that was in the paper a couple of days ago about the state relieving property taxes. This was brought up, I think, specifically. I think you did.
Yes.
What is it? How much does this cost? $5 million or $7 or something?
Something like that.
So,
And
I mean,
it could be in this one, or it could be in Senator Crawford's unfunded mandate interim study that she's doing, which I really do believe also that something will come forward. So
I think we ought to
tag it in here, and then
I'd like to see us contact both senators to see which one would be willing to include the property tax relief aspect of it, at least have them pay for it. I don't know. Frankly, I don't want to see the state get involved any further than what they have.
Right.
But
I can check with them to see where they are with their studies.
Good. Thank you.
And then ask that item specifically.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rogers.
It's. I mean, when you brought up the unfunded mandate question, I'm just wondering, when the paper had the article last week, why in the instance, and I don't know if this is Teresa's question, why are they trying to say we're not, what's happening to the counties is not an unfunded mandate because we're not a separate governmental jurisdiction, even though, I mean, I've never heard it be declared that we're not a separate governmental jurisdiction. I mean, even though we're written in state statute as, that, I mean, how do we not be a separate governmental jurisdiction in their eyes?
In the state's eyes?
Yeah, it mentioned that in the article when you were quoted in some degree. I mean, I've never heard that used like that.
Well, it's an argument so they don't have to pay.
I know, but I just never, and I don't know if that's an editorial comment by the writing, or is that like factual, technically. I just wanted somebody to explain it to me, because
Commissioner, I'm not familiar with the article. I'd be happy to take a look at it if you still have it, or if...
No, it was last week sometime.
Friday, wasn't it?
No, I'm just curious, just one of you all just give me an answer.
Commissioner, it was in the article, and basically what it says is that we're a political subdivision of the state of Nebraska, so creature of the state, and we carry out those things that the state chooses not to carry out. If we didn't do it, the state would, so they delegate it to us, and that's the gist of it.
Well, no, I'm just wondering, where's the give on that? Because somehow that, when I heard that, to me, that kind of undercuts the governor's argument all the time when he tells us to just cut your spending, or some degree, because he passes it down like you're a separate entity that can handle it, but then again the paper says you're not. So, I mean, there's some responsibility to fund us in some degree, I guess. And I just wanted to bring it up because if they put it out there, somebody's going to use it. And I'm just wondering what's our answer to it for the future. That's all.
Okay, good point. Next.
Very next item is related. It also addresses GAL. And I was going to say the background on this item, I have done a little bit of research and provided to Commissioner Borgeson that, states really are split as to the roles of a GAL or a combination of the roles of a GAL, a CASA, social worker, et cetera. So this is an item that would bring that forward and consider, because even in our region, states surrounding us do it very differently. Iowa and South Dakota, Kansas. So, anyway.
Yep. Commissioner Rogers? Commissioner Boyle?
I am personally opposed, and not because I'm an attorney, but I am personally opposed to non-lawyers being guardian ad litems. I think the guardian ad litem requires someone who can appear in court and represent the child. However, I do believe there's a real place, and it's needed, for social workers, people from CASA. That's where we really need some, I see it as a team. We need some help. And we need somebody that can nurture the child, step in and help, whether it's with school or whether it's bullying or whether it's transportation. Lawyer isn't going to do that. I mean, that's just not something he should do, and we shouldn't be paying for that. I think there's a real place for people. I don't care if they're former lawyers or still lawyers or retired, but I don't think they should be the ones that, you shouldn't expect people who are going to court to help a child with transportation. That just doesn't make sense. So I'm opposed to the having non-lawyers be guardian ad litems, but I do think at the same time we need to really investigate the possibility of having an organization like CASA, which does terrific work. I don't know what our funding situation, I'm not sure that we're funding them anything anymore, but I think that's the kind of group we should, and I'm sure there's others that could step in. I mean, there's the Girls Club, Girls Inc., all sorts of things, assets and people that could help.
Well, and I agree with that, and to a point. I mean, most of the work, if you really look at what the guardian ad litems do prior to, or even if needed, going to court. I mean, sometimes if something can be handled outside of court, it's handled outside of court. So somehow or another, I think we're paying way too much, and we're counting on people who are not, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but they're not educated to be a social worker or a CASA worker.
That's right.
Or a family support network person. They're attorneys. And so that's what they went to school to learn, and that's what they are. So I think the majority of the work that they do can be done by a non-attorney.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I do agree that, I mean, constitutionally, that if a child goes to court, that they deserve representation, and, that has to be by an attorney, I guess.
Yeah.
But everything else should be able to be done by those who have more of the expertise to do that. So somehow or another, those terms or that label or that system, we again need to continually talk about, which I think will happen during Senator Campbell's stuff.
Well, Commissioner, I don't disagree with you. I just don't want them called guardian ad litems, because guardian ad litems, to me, are the attorneys, and I don't want to pay an attorney $65 an hour to help a child figure out transportation problems. Right. I mean, it could take 2 or 3 hours, and we're spending, too much money. Right. Shouldn't be doing that. So we need a team approach, and I think that'd work well, because then if we have really active, and hopefully I'd like to see some really aggressive and helpful and advocates, is not the word aggressive, but advocates for children who are teamed up with a lawyer who can kind of eyeball that lawyer for us too, and make sure that he or she is doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, I think it's a terrific asset to have a team instead of a lawyer who's expected to do some of these things that are really not in his or her job description. Not that they're too good to do it, but they're too expensive. We don't need them.
Well, and I guess that's where I'm getting hung up on is the, not that I don't totally disagree with the team aspect, but I just don't think the need is there at the onset for the attorney to be involved.
Could be.
You know.
Right.
So,
That's
but I
what it-
agree
Yeah.
that at some point when that child needs representation within the court system, that an attorney obviously would be pulled in. So
I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, I think so.
I wouldn't have a problem with a non-attorney at the beginning and helping out and so forth, but then the attorney
How do
has to
we-
step in and go to court.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
Next.
So we'll change the language then.
Yep. Well, Marcos will figure out how to word that.
Good. Thank you.
Commissioners, I apologize for my pause. I'm just writing a few notes
No,
from your
that's
discussion. On number 12 on there, Commissioner Rogers had submitted, and this may be the one you want withdrawn.
It's gone.
Okay, will do. All right, next topic is auto. Starts with number 13, and this
Right.
one's from August. And I don't know if the commissioners remember this, there was a discussion about a refund credit on I guess a 13th month being paid forward. I tried to capture that as best as I could as a summary. And so anyway, this would allow the seller of a vehicle to sell their vehicle and get that credit back, even if they're not transferring it to another vehicle, transferring their registration. So.
And all the board members recall we had the gentleman come forward, this accountant bringing this to our attention, where they're collecting from the buyer and the seller. And that's why we looked at it. The only thing I'd like to be careful about is make sure Mr. Ewing, Tim Kavanaugh, at least look at this so that we have their input. And then if they're okay, we'll go ahead. If that
Well, I
makes
think,
sense.
Commissioner Morgan, weren't they supposed to be bringing back
They were
some
going to, right.
financial impact? So should we
Wait to hear that.
wait till we hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see if you can find out, Marcos, and then we can talk about it. If they seem to be okay, then let's look at moving forward with it.
Okay.
Okay. Next item on there also relates to autos. It's waiving the late penalty for auto registration in an attempt to make the provisions consistent with the real property waivers. This was submitted by Commissioner Boyle back in July.
Okay.
I've already been busy, haven't I?
The next item.
Me and my mouth.
The
See,
next
we're
item.
capturing it all now.
And if I had, I would say through the chair that, purpose of some of this discussion is too, if I didn't capture what you wanted correctly, you have to let me know because I'm writing notes on the fly, so.
No, you're doing good so far.
Great job. Great job.
Number 15 is support legislation allowing counties to share in the revenue collected from auto sales tax. This came from a budget meeting discussion on the amount of revenue that we actually collect or receive from the state. And so anyway, if you had any other comments, Commissioner,
No, that's fine.
Okay. Number 16, legislation to remove as a duty of the county treasurer offices the storing and in-person issuance of license plates. Instead to go to a centrally located distribution facility by the state. It would all be by mail. Again, submitted early in the year by Commissioner Boyle.
Commissioner Boyle, is this where we should add maybe it's an additional item or tack it onto there where we talked the other day about the plates staying with where they don't change every, what is it now, 5 years or 3? How often? 5? I mean, to me, right there is where we could save some pretty big dollars.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want it tacked on to
Yeah.
this one or separate?
I think, let's try to tack it on. So this is the sort of thing that has to go to the Association of County Officials
Right.
anyway.
Okay.
I think the other thing I'd like to bring up, and I mentioned this to Marty Belake over at the city, I have a, a fixation on post office vehicles, which I hope to pass on to everyone in the audience. When you see a postal vehicle, it doesn't have any license plates at all. It has about an 8-digit number on the front and the back, on the hood and on the trunk, or whatever it is, but there's no license plate. And the post office, I don't believe, is even a federal agency, so I don't know how they do that, but I'd sure like to see us do something like that. Either have no plates on our government cars identifying who we are and a number, or in the alternative, in Kansas City and other places in Missouri, I've observed public safety vehicles with simply in Kansas City, I think the plate just says police. That's all, police. And the plates are never changed. There's none of that stuff, taking them into the garage, taking those plates off, putting on a 5-digit number that doesn't mean anything. It has that number plus the number of the cruiser plus 911 plus, you're trying to report something, and you've got 15 places to look for who you're trying to report. And of course the number is on the top of the car too. What I'd like to see, and I talked to Marty about it, he was kind of interested, is having plates that could say Douglas County Sheriff within a number that applies to the cruiser. And it doesn't come off, it stays on the car. We don't have people changing plates with these silly, as I said, 5-digit numbers that have no connection to anything. And he was pretty interested. It would save the manpower, the labor to do that. It would also save reissuing all these plates, which is a waste of money. And you could, if they were non-descriptive and just said police or sheriff in big letters, you wouldn't have to worry about what car they went on. But if they had a number, of course, it'd have to correspond. So if that plate got damaged, you'd have to get a new one of it. But that's not a big deal. I just think it'd save a lot of money, and I hope everybody will notice postal trucks now and wonder why, how come they get away with this.
Do fire trucks have license plates?
Yeah, everybody. City buses, and buses are really crummy. They're usually damaged quite a bit, I guess, because of the exhaust. But city trucks and parks trucks and fire trucks, they've all got license plates. What is that all about? And I guess they have to change them periodically. I don't know. Maybe.
It's worth discussion.
But it'd be interesting to see it. The other thing that is quite a bit more controversial is moving the issuance of license plates. I don't know if other states do this, but right now what happens is that there's a whole slew of plates that come up to Douglas County, for example, that are stored in big boxes and big rooms and all this stuff, big heavy stuff. All these plates are issued, and they reach a point where they're not issuing anymore, and they scrap them. And it's a waste of money, a waste of energy. It's all these things that come into play. We ought to do it a new way. And one of the ways I'd like to see, which would be, is very controversial, is to have the state of Nebraska issue those plates. I just got my driver's license from Lincoln on the internet. And I renewed my license plates on the internet because I was too lazy to go out to wherever it is, stand in line. So I paid a few bucks extra, but anyway, that's what I did. And I think they came from Lincoln too. I don't know where they came from.
So
But anyways.
that's this first one.
Yeah, sorry about
That covers it.
dragging all that on.
Okay, and then we added 2 more, Marcos.
Okay, got it.
All right.
What was the second?
The plate stays with the vehicle is the one, and then the plate
safety.
specifying police or
Right.
sheriff or fire or whatever. Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. That takes us through auto. Next topic, revenue and taxation. 2 slides on this. Number 17 and 18. Number 17, this item deals with I think the bigger conversation that the commissioners have had on TIF and TIF reform at the state level. I think initially I had captured it as require a reimbursement or a matching of funds from the state for all TIF financing back projects.
Okay.
And then I linked it to Metropolitan Class. But this
Commissioner
is...
Rogers?
Yeah, the context of that was all the discussion happening, and I think in conversations with a couple of senators, when TIF happens, I think the state reimburses the school districts, and so the point of this was, you can keep TIF however you want to. I mean, we don't have any control, but if the state agrees to reimburse us that portion back that we lost, I think it's a whole nother ball game. And so that's pretty much the core of that. And I think there's an existing program right now where they do reimburse an entity. So if we can get added to that, I think that's worth it.
Okay. Is everybody okay? Commissioner Boyle?
I'm not okay with it. I don't want to see reimbursement or a matching fund. I want to see the state of Nebraska pay for it. It is...
Well, you can say pay for it. I just use reimbursement as the same term.
Well, I don't like reimbursement.
Okay.
I just want to pay for it.
I'm
I
fine with pay for it.
don't want to get the money back, wait for them. They'll do a jail reimbursement on us.
Okay.
So I think that it ought to be funded out of some other, like LB 775, attach it to that or some crazy thing,
So do we just say to require state of Nebraska to fund all TIF
Yeah,
backed projects?
yeah, I think so. See what happens.
State of Nebraska to fund, okay.
Okay. Number 18, yeah, I have it on. Number 18.
Clarify, because this is, I think the last part where it says, or to allow a county board to create a method, I think you can strike that.
Okay.
That was some of the debate in the budget a couple of years ago, and the county has that authority if they choose to use it with the health departments. The one point I guess I wanted to make in this is and we may need to tweak this, because if you have like Lancaster County, where it's a kind of a joint deal and the county doesn't have total control, it's another matter. I think here you might have to use Metropolitan Class, because that pretty much would be us, but there's an inconsistency just in the fact that we have the health department, but the city sets the ordinances, and I think if there's some way to play with the language that if the county has control of it, if the county can have ordinance power in regards to some elements of public health.
So do you want to work with Marcos, tweak it, and bring it
Yeah.
back?
Yeah.
Okay.
On to slide number 2, number 19 and 20. Revised Chapter 77 to clarify payment in lieu of taxes concept, or a more strict application of charitable activities, exempting back office activities for property tax reform. This was also part of the bigger conversation on property tax reform that we had back in June, I believe.
And I'd like to see us have some discussion of that possibly in Lincoln when we have the Tri-County meeting. Talk about it. We're seeing more and more practices, medical practices purchased in our community, and then we're seeing buildings bought where they move those offices. They then don't pay any property taxes. Other states are working on the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes, and I think we need to take a look at that, because those practices don't change, and there should be some qualification for that tax exemption in the work that they do, whether it's on 89th and Dodge or wherever they're buying buildings, that kind of thing.
So we'll keep that one in there then?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Number 20, this was recently submitted to me. Commissioner Boyle had requested to revise the Greenbelt designation, again in the property tax code, exempting language to reflect similar exemption language as homestead exemption, to further revise language pertaining to homestead to become a permanent designation held until the death of the property owner or the resale of the property. So the purpose of this is to equate Greenbelt with homestead, and then to make homestead permanent.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, it may need, thank you, it may need some people may be uneasy about that. Excuse me, because someone may die and a child may move in and try to keep the homestead exemption. But I think maybe, excuse me, if we did a simple, understandable annual postcard to the person receiving the homestead exemption with 2 or 3 questions that are relevant. Are you still residing here? Has your income changed? Those 2 things would probably they'd be very useful. So if someone's income went up and they lost their exemption, this would trigger an inspection and a contact. So I'm not. I just think I'm very concerned about the elderly having to get these things in the mail from us and big long things. I don't know what all goes out, but they forget to file. We've heard that so often. I'd like to treat them, what Social Security handles things somehow. I'm sure people get through the cracks on that. We hear of that happening occasionally. But I think we ought to trust the elderly as much as we trust people who are asking for Greenbelt, seems to me.
Okay. Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, and Commissioner Boyle, you brought up something about Greenbelt designation and the rules that apply to it, where certain people are grandfathered in even though they're no longer using it in a Greenbelt manner. I thought that's what you brought up a few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
I don't think they're grandfathered. I think, but the trouble is, it's pretty permanent, isn't it? I mean, is that grandfathered?
Well,
yeah,
semantics, but yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
I think it needs to be reviewed.
Right, it does.
Okay.
So reading this, at least the way I read it, you'd be granting them permanency for Greenbelt instead of reviewing it.
Oh, no.
No?
They don't want to do
For
that.
homestead.
Well, for homestead, yes, but using the same language.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, you see it in there?
Yeah, I do now.
So this needs to be reworded.
Right, exactly. I need to have you help me with some law work. Can you? No, it does need to be reworded because we don't want Greenbelt to have permanency, and I attached erroneously homestead to that permanency. So we need to, I guess, have a separate 20 and 20A or something. The Greenbelt needs to be reviewed. We talked with, I forgot who we talked with now. I guess it was, I don't know if it was somebody from the assessor's office or where, but about trying to, get away from people who have some grass growing on their yard and they claim that as a farm. We need to tighten that up quite a bit. So and we need 2 different approaches to that. One, to look into Greenbelt and remove some of tighten up the regulations so we don't have people who are on a minimum number of acres claiming Greenbelt. And then secondly, having homestead exemption become permanent with an annual, contact to ask about, are you still living in that house, and has your income changed?
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Mark. I appreciate that.
I will split those 2 items.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, Commissioner, these are in draft form, so I'll go on to 21.
Yep.
Here we go. 21. These are the public interest catch-alls. I couldn't really put them under a topic in particular, so start with 21. This is the most recent one that was submitted to me. It deals with having Medicaid, Nebraska Medicaid, include paramedical assistance services, also known as community paramedicine and home paramedic assistance services.
Yep.
Okay. Number 22, Commissioner Tusha and Commissioner Boyle had submitted revising livestock. It's just the name of the chapter, but it would it provides for an identification document, statewide registration for working service animals, although they are not really livestock, I guess.
So this would require
that chapter,
this
though.
would require Claire to have tags on all of his cows. License plates. That's what he needs.
This is more for the service dog.
Right. It is 100% for the service dog.
Right.
That is a section of the code that has working service animals in it.
Let me ask you a question. Does this? I ran into woman who's visually impaired, and she had a dog, and it did not have anything on it. Does this create any kind of a hardship for those who are using these animals, the dogs? Does it create a hardship for them to get this done? I mean, I don't want to do anything that...
To get an idea, I think at least through the chair, I was going to say that my impression is we want to make it easier for them to access buildings in general, and that's part of the very last sentence, facilitate easier access by a working service animal into facilities through some type of visible identification. I don't know if you have more specifics on it. I can write it in. Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner Kraft?
And how does that tie in, requiring them to get a special license for a service animal with the ADA? Is that allowable under the ADA?
Probably have to check that out.
Teresa?
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. We would have to look at that. There's some restrictions on what you can ask under the ADA with regards to a service animal, and so I think we would have to look at that legislation very closely. There are some restrictions there.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next item is, let's see, we are on number 23. Legislative initiative to expand Nebraska Medicaid coverage to individuals in the county's custody until sentencing or post-adjudication. This was an item that was brought forward by Commissioner Borgeson.
It's also being worked on the national level. Okay.
Number 24, revising Chapter 22 to specify that upon the merger or consolidation of two or more elected county offices, the newly consolidated office would only have one chief deputy by title.
Okay.
Commissioner?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Boyle.
I was only going to comment that I don't really have a strong feelings about this. I think it will, if you take away a chief deputy and we're looking at the assessor who has two, and we're with this merger that I was not in favor of that's taking place, would have been 3 chief deputies, but then we removed one, which has caused some problem. This just is going to lead to more additional civil service and union covered employees. I don't think it's reasonable to expect that, I'll name names, when Ms. Badiato takes over that office, that she's not going to need someone to do one or the other. She's going to have somebody doing what the assessor does, and I assume her chief deputy will still be in the Register of Deeds section. I don't think this, it's okay. All it does is, if you take away a chief deputy who's a political appointee with no protection, it's going to lead to, they function and they work hard. It's going to lead to opening up a position for someone to take that person's place, and it will be civil service and maybe union, I don't know, supervisors union. So I don't have any objection to that, but this is not a money saver, and it's kind of a wash.
That may be true, but I mean, if you go back historically, the assessor's office ran with one chief deputy for buku years. So the argument that they have to have two,
they probably gotten used to it though by now.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Me too.
Whatever.
Whatever.
You got that, Marco?
The other one on the medical was, and Commissioner Rogers may have to help me out here, but we talked about this once before. I think it's the state of Oregon that adopted legislation that private insurance companies as well had to cover the inmate medical until sentencing. And it just happened like 2 years ago, if I am remembering all of this.
But I can't remember the state.
So maybe if Marcos can research that and get that bill. I know when it happened, we were at a NACO meeting and I sent it to Senator Campbell. So could you maybe pull that out again, and then we could maybe add that one as well. All right.
All right. Commissioners, that concludes my first part of this. If you want me to proceed forward to Part B, all I have really to present, if you flip to page 8 of document A, it is the carryover items or possible carryover items. In a nutshell, these items are, let's see, there are 12 of them, and these are items that unfortunately they were not successful during the 103rd, and so it's whatever the will of the board is. If you want to discuss them to move them forward, whatever you'd like to do. I will say, just as an example, number 1 there in green at the bottom of the paragraph, it shows that the bill was carried. I did note who had carried the bill, and the bill had been unsuccessful. So
I think these are all, if I'm reading them, they're all issues that continually come up. So I think if we leave them on our sheets for now, and then what I would ask the board to do is to take this document and maybe study it a little further and start ranking what you think should be. I mean, we can't just hand this is way too many. But, and there's going to be more, I'm sure. So if we start ranking some items that we think should be our priorities, and then we can always bring it back and revise it. But for purposes of today, what I was thinking is that if we have a motion to approve this tentative agenda, so at least when we're talking to our tri-counties, if we're having discussions with our senators, we will be able to say, this is what we have as our legislative package approved and on record. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so Commissioner Boyle?
I don't mean to be a nitpicker, but on page 7, the top number 5.
Number A or B?
Let's see. This is B.
Okay.
Okay. There's a word that kind of is a creeping word. It's not exactly accurate. Support funding for rehabilitative alternatives to incarceration, metropolitan communities in Nebraska. I think we need to be consistent and say counties.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I just don't want to.
This is item number 5 on Part B.
Right. I don't know where that language came from, but communities is a little bit blurry.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good point.
Thanks. This is really excellent, Marcos. Just really great.
Thank you very much.
And thank you also for not only the work, but the presentation that was very helpful, and you captured, you're a good capturer of all of what we are talking about.
Now if we could just enact them.
A working document, yeah.
Okay, so.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question?
Yes.
So we had listed down that you wanted to hold over for more information, items 2, 3, 5, 13, and 18.
2, 3,
and number
yes.
12 was withdrawn. I just want to make sure we got that
yes.
correct.
12 is withdrawn.
12 is withdrawn.
And 18 is held over too?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Where will these be discussed?
Well, they'll bring back, a lot of them are further information that needed to be gathered.
Somebody's going to do
They'll
that?
bring back here. Yep. Yep. Okay.
Ms. Carlson's going to do all that, right?
Uh-huh. No, Marcos is, and Teresa, and Chris.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay. No, we have I thought we had a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Please, I'm sorry, Commissioner Duda.
Quickly. I really think and no, I don't have any questions for you, Marcus. I just want to say, I really think in terms of what we assign our lobbyists to, that we should just have a small handful of priorities that they're actually working on. We have 32 bills here, and I don't think we're going to...
Let's whittle it down to 30.
It's something more manageable.
No,
it's
you're
one
really
thing to officially take a stand on a bill, but it's another to promote it through our contracted lobbyists. And when it comes to the lobbying, I'm going to want to be rather selective and just pick a few priorities.
I agree.
Well, that's why we need to go back and pick which ones. And of course, that's going to also play into, I mean, there could be ones that say we don't pick it, but all of a sudden the Tri-County retreat, it's like, gosh, maybe we should pick that. So we will have a set of priorities like we did last year that we give to the lobbyists because...
But if Mikey's not there to bring up issues on every single one, it should go just calm one.
Please vote.
I'll record something. I'll record a message.
Okay, I'm sure you will.
Next is item 4. There's a resolution terminating the Align Care Dental Services contract. Patrick, did you have any other information on this between what's here and, no? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll just say that there was contact from Align that they have changed their dentist and are requesting a 90-day extension. Now, of course, the contract basically just renews automatically from 1 year to the next. So what the request really is to hold off on any negative action for a period of 90 days to see how things go with the new dentist that they brought in. I believe it's Dr. Lenahan, who previously provided dental care at the health center prior to Dr. Kindler, who has been relieved of his responsibilities by Align Care. So they're asking for us to the board to hold off for 90 days before they take any further action.
I think that's kind of reasonable. What I would ask Jim to come to the podium, and I think if what do you think?
Well, I'm Jim Torville, administrator at the health center. My concern is the quality. I just want to make sure that we have to make sure that the quality is enhanced, and that's what we'll have to monitor and be real studious about. And I'll be very glad to do that and make sure that our needs are met.
Okay.
And give it a try for the 90 days.
90 days, okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yeah, my concern is not necessarily with the particular dentist, but the reaction of the management when we discussed the performance of the prior dentist, the one who resigned, and the way he was reported to me as confrontational when our administration met with him. And that was to me very disturbing, that I'm not in favor of extending it 90 days.
Any other questions or comments? I think, I guess, and I'm not saying what we heard was not true. I'm just saying we heard one side of the story. We never actually had a conversation as a board with anybody from the provider side. This 90 days, I think, would give us that opportunity to see if they're going to put up or not. So I would be okay with giving them the 90 days with the new dentist. Commissioner Morgan? Oh, sorry.
Do you want to say anything, Jim?
No, not really. I think that...
are you thinking, hey, we got the information, saw pictures, so on, that was a little disturbing.
With the changes that have been relayed to me or shared with me, I think that I'd give them a try for the 90 days and see if they can meet our expectations.
The only thing I'd say is, in my opinion, if we're going to do this, let's give them 60 days. We have a service we're providing to some people in real need, and we should be able to tell, actually in 30 days, but let's go to the 60. Is long enough, in my opinion, with what we've seen was going on before.
Commissioner Kraft?
Yes, we heard from at least 3 people who were involved in the meeting that the administrator and the owner of the company was very confrontational, very unwilling to listen and unwilling to modify and take the gentleman away at that time. I'm going to move for the termination.
Second.
Commissioner Tusha?
I got a quick question. If we do extend it to 90 days and we come back to the same issues that we're having now, is there something in there that we can just, eliminate it immediately and not continue with the 90 days?
I believe there is, yes.
Okay.
Same thing as now.
Teresa?
Teresa here at County Attorney's Office. There is a paragraph regarding termination of the contract. Termination can be done with or without cause on 60 days written notice, or if a party fails to abide by the contents of the agreement, the other party can provide 1 day's written notice for termination.
So the motion you made is what exactly?
Terminated.
To terminate the contract
How soon?
immediately.
as soon as possible.
Any further, just Commissioner Tricia?
What would happen if we terminated it immediately? Do you have
They
backup?
have another physician, dentist, sorry, Dr., you said the name, who we would bring in. If the aligned contract is terminated, we had a Dr.
Sweeney.
Who?
Sweeney?
Sweeney, that's what it was, who also had performed services at county before.
What were his services like? Do you recall, Jim?
I don't believe there were any issues with him at all, to my knowledge.
I didn't know, I mean, we didn't really discuss the new information about the 90 days except for right here. So.
Be the first. Is it the
What?
second?
Like I said, my concern is for the quality, make sure that that is there. So.
Yeah. But the dentist that they're bringing in to replace the one that they terminated or moved out has performed services with us before.
That is correct.
And when that dentist, Lehan, did I, right?
Lenahan.
Lenahan,
Mhm.
was there problems with that dentist?
Not to my
prior
knowledge. Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, and how long ago was it that person, that
Probably
dentist?
2 years.
3 years?
2 or 3 years.
Okay, all right.
Did she want to say something?
Commissioner Boyle, you had asked Chandra, did you have a question for Chandra, or did you?
No, there's a person who... another
Yeah,
person
Chandra,
who-
do you want
Oh,
her
yeah,
to say
excuse me.
something?
Yes, she wants
Okay,
to speak.
come on up.
I wasn't at the meeting with the other owners.
Can you give your name and-
Oh, sure, Chandra Wilkins. I wasn't at that meeting that you're talking about, but I think part of our defense was that these concerns were dated back till January, and they weren't addressed with us until months later. And so that was concerning to us because we would address them immediately. We talked about replacing the dentist also right away, and it didn't come to our attention that that needed to happen until a while later. So as soon as that was told us that that was what needed to happen, that's what we did. So I think, you know, if we would have known instead of in July that in January there were issues, we could have corrected them.
And you have thus far
Mhm.
immediately removed the
Yep.
current and put in
Yep.
this Dr.
Yep, Dr. Lenahan is ready to step in.
Okay.
Must be.
Well, again, I guess I'm okay with at least giving them the 90 days to prove the changes and the quality. And again, if we've had a dentist that's done the work with our residents before, then that, I guess, tells us something. So I'm not going to be voting to terminate immediately. Is there any other question? Commissioner Morgan?
Why wasn't it called to their attention for so many months?
I can't give you a reason for that. When it was brought to my attention, we did look into it, and we did follow up. And then we started meetings with them probably about 4 months ago. So
There isn't anyone here that can comment about that? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm just hearing.
Hi, Mary Powell, Director of Nursing, Douglas County Health Center. We had brought the concerns to the attention of administration, to the concerns of the dental clinic. Throughout the process, there were no changes. Things continued to happen. We continued to bring them. I have, since the last meeting that I presented information to you, have received 2 more emails from staff, from family members, with concerns that not only relate to the dentist, but relate to billing.
Okay, thank you.
And I mean, I don't want to air dirty laundry in public, but I also think that there's a little bit more than just performance of services that is going on here, and has been going on for a while with this contractual arrangement. So, again, I'm not saying what's been presented and showed to us was false. What I'm saying is we never really had the other side of the story as a board presented to us until now. And so I'll just reiterate again, I'm not going to vote for the termination. I think if we're bringing in a dentist that had serviced our residents and we didn't have a problem with them before, then we should at least give it a
And they're also bringing in a hygienist as well.
and a hygienist.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Duda?
Thank you. This is all confusing, and issues do tend to overlap just a little bit. My personal thinking is we have not been satisfied with the services that we have been receiving. We had executive session out of the trustees to bring examples to our attention. And I think it is appropriate when you contract out, if you're not satisfied with the service, to change contractors. The fact that Chandra Wilkins is doing a fantastic job heading up our short-term rehab, and I'm excited about the good things that are happening there. And I think it is important that everybody in the facility be comfortable backing this contract employee with what she's trying to attempt. And I think it muddies the waters for her to be involved with a second contract that has a little bit of controversy with it in terms of the attitude of management and everything. I really think it would be cleaner to simply cut the contract with Align Care. We're going to make sure that our residents and patients get good dental care either way. Things are going to improve regardless. I mean, the changes have already taken place to ensure that. But I think we and the staff at the health center can more fully get behind Chandra Wilkins and everything she is trying to do here on the short-term rehab if we don't muddy the waters and have her involved with another contract that is not necessarily as universally supported. I think it would be cleaner for us to cut this contract and support everybody in the new ventures with the directions they're going. Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers?
Yeah, from what was heard in the executive session and thinking about it, I wanted to see if this could try, but the fact it seems like that whoever this person was heard that they were seriously on the chopping block, and then they decided to respond. And, I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to, but, 90 days for me would be too long. I mean, I almost think there needs to be like a 2-year probationary period with the essence of firing at any moment if that was to happen. I mean, giving them 90 days is, my gut, a little too long. So, I just don't know where I'll vote with this. My gut is to just say that they're responding last minute because this should have been on the radar for them a long time ago. Thanks.
Commissioner Rogers? Did you have, Okay, with that, there is a motion to terminate the contract and begin services with Dr. Sweeney. Is that right, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, please vote. And just for the record, I'm going to be watching a lot closer issues that are being brought up to my attention. Item 5, discussion action regarding hiring of employees in Douglas County Assessor's Office. This is brought by Commissioner Foyle.
Yes. This is, first of all, I want to say what this is not. This is not a witch hunt. In my opinion, the county assessor, Roger Morrissey, has done an outstanding job. Would you come to the podium, please, Roger? We're not going to give you a gold watch or anything right now, but come on to the podium. Roger has done a terrific job as county assessor, in my opinion, under a great deal of stress and strain, not having, in my opinion, again, adequate staff to do some of the things that are needed to be done, and somehow he's pulled the stake out of the fire successfully for many years, and I personally am grateful for his service and the staff that he's put together. But there's some questions, and I've got a chart that I asked Roger to supply, and it's the standard, organizational chart. And there's some concern, and I called Lee Lejour from the Civil Service Commission, some concern that over the past, 9 months or so, that there have been some substantial changes in duties of employees and also possibly some additional hirings. And so I spoke to Roger about it to give him a heads up, and unfortunately I had to take a phone call from one of my grandkids at the end of the conversation, so we didn't get to finish, and I apologize for that. But I would like to ask you, if you are comfortable, if you could tell us what changes have taken place based on that. You have one of your charts with you or not? I think we have an extra one, maybe.
Yeah, I've got one.
Have you got one? Okay. I guess just if you would, in the last 9 months or so, if you would give us a snapshot of what's happened to your organizational chart and who's been hired and who's been moved and that sort of thing, if you would. I really appreciate your willingness to come and discuss this. It's helpful.
Roger Morrissey, Douglas County Assessor. Thank you, first of all, Commissioner, for the kind words.
Well, they're earned.
In the last 9 months, I think we've, we're the supervisor appraiser, or the senior appraiser commercial. That position was vacant. We detailed somebody there, but that position is still vacant, and I have not filled, feeling that the next person would want to hire her own person. So that wasn't changed there.
How long is when a person's detailed, can you explain what that means?
Detailed is we take an existing staff person and detail that person into another job position and pay them salary commensurate to that.
Okay.
With the understanding. Here again, I think first I want to note to the Commission is that during the 16 years I've been in office, we have reorganized several times and moved staff and hired staff and changed organizational chart buku times to meet the statutory obligations that we have in the office. So I would say that any organizational chart that we've had is a living organism, more or less. So
who is detailed?
Detailed is, I hate to start mentioning names,
okay.
but it's on the list.
Okay.
Under
okay.
Senior Appraiser Commercial, Commissioner. Here.
Okay, let's see. I'm sorry, would you say that again?
Senior Senior Appraiser Commercial.
Okay, I see that person, I drew a line through it.
That person was not hired. That person is a real estate appraiser Tech 2.
Oh, that person's still employed?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, everybody here is still employed.
I see. Okay. But that person whose initials
this is current staffing.
Oh, okay. But you've got a detailed person in there, and there's not a. Is there
It's
any,
a vacancy. That job is vacancy.
Okay, the
And,
senior appraiser commercial is vacant.
Right.
And you've got an employee, a present employee detailed, right?
Detailed that can be moved back to her current
Okay.
position as a real estate appraiser Tech 2.
Okay. All right. How long does detailed last? What's the limit on it?
Yeah, and here again,
Maybe we can
I
ask-
think it's a year that we can go detail. And it's a temporary move.
Okay.
That you've got somebody in there till you hire somebody else.
All right.
Okay, that's the intent of detail,
Okay.
is have somebody perform the function so you get the job done. And, I would expect that person, when that job's posted, and the next person that's in charge of the office wants to fill that position, I would expect this person would apply for that also,
Yeah, but that,
for a permanent position.
maybe this is a question for Mr. Legura, but does that give that person a leg up, so to speak?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
no,
All right.
not at all.
Okay.
Because the decision of hiring is an elected official.
Okay.
Elected official has say in the final way of how his or her office is run.
Okay, so that employee with the initial LR that is listed on this she's over really in real estate appraisers Tech 2?
Right.
Okay, so are there 3 real estate appraiser Tech 2s, rather? The one person named SS and
that's-
JP? There's
That's
3.
the way I see it, yes.
Okay, there's 3 there. All
Uh-huh.
right. All right. Any other changes that,
We have, 2 new people, real estate listers.
and where, real estate listers?
Those are straight down from my name, go all the way to the bottom.
Oh, okay, you got +2?
Yeah.
Are they
The final
listed here?
final two names are
New employees?
they were hired in May,
Okay,
and let's see, on the commercial side, under LR, there are some real estate appraisers Tech 1. That second person was hired in March,
second person, what are the initials?
MJ.
MJ.
That person had,
MJ. I don't see an MJ under real estate appraisers Tech 1.
right, and that person had resigned from his position late last year to take care of a family member.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? I'm sorry, I was talking to Mr. Kraft. I couldn't find MJ.
That person left the assessor's office last year to take care of a family member.
Right,
That family member passed away.
okay.
Then that person called the office and asked if there would be an opening, and we can sure use all the help we can get.
Sure.
And especially an employee that probably been with us for 7 years.
Yeah.
And so I posted that position, interviewed several persons, and he was most qualified, of course, with the job.
So he was put into the real estate appraisers Tech 1?
Right.
Great, thank you.
I think those are all the positions that we've hired in the last 9 months.
Okay,
And I point out that 9 months ago, we were under last year's budget. And I will point out that I believe the 2 listers I'd intend on hiring anyway to fill some open slots, vacancies that we had in the office. And there are still a handful of positions that are open per the budget that we submitted to you and was approved by this body, that we have not hired any new people there and have not posted for any new hires.
so you don't have any on the list you don't have any openings right now that are listed with the civil service?
We have openings, but we don't have any listings posted.
Okay.
We've not gone to personnel
Yeah.
and said we want to hire this position.
Okay.
Well, can I ask a question on when we talked yesterday, you said you had 7 openings. But on the sheet that shows what's happened since March of 2014, there's 7 positions that are all taken care of except for one, and that was the assistant
March
manager.
2000, I'm not following you, Commissioner.
You, on the sheet that goes back from where March of 2014, which is actually prior to, but there's 7 positions, but those are all either filled or the one is like happening now.
This says vacant on them?
No, they've either been filled or it's the one that you talked about where there's going to be an internal lateral move.
I don't have any idea what you're looking at.
Can you?
You have assessor support technician now, and those are 2 vacancies were 2, but those are termed internal, which I'm assuming you posted as an internal posting to move people into those positions.
Is this the sheet you have?
Yeah.
This is from Mr. Lejeune from HR.
Yeah.
This isn't my sheet. Yeah,
There's 7 positions, they're total.
I think Lee Lejeune had some more, give us a couple if you all saw that.
So all I'm trying to equate is, when you said yesterday that there were 7 vacant positions.
we still have other vacant positions. Yes, ma'am. We still do. That I have not. There are I'm going off the top of my head. There's about $350,000 in vacancies that I don't intend to fill. That the next person could, or here again, as elected officials, we have the opportunity to use the funds for what we need to meet our statutory obligations. I'm not filling those. I'm withholding those. We could use more people, but I'm not hiring them at this 11th hour.
And then the last question I have is, when we talked yesterday about the detailed person has been there for how long?
Probably about 8 or 9 months.
Okay, so, and that's as long as someone can stay I mean, my question is leading to, why now? Are we all of a sudden moving someone, and it's not really lateral, it would be a downward swing, but why are we moving that person? Is a detailed thing ran out?
So I can meet statutory obligations, and I have everything done so I can pass the baton to the next person. I'm doing what I can to make sure that we get everything done and done correct, so we don't miss a beat. I'm proud of what we've done the last 16 years, and I appreciate the comment. And I'm here at 7 o'clock every morning still. I'm lame duck, but I'm still the assessor, and I still have the obligations until the next person's sworn in. I intend to give 110% like I have before, and be in the office and be responsive and responsible.
Commissioner Morgan?
You made a comment on your budget, and I realize we're just into it. Where would you be right now if we looked at what was budgeted and where you are as far as...
We're right on track. I looked at that just before I came down. We're a little over the quarter of the year gone, and we've spent 25%. So I've got a little cushion there, but I do have some personnel things that can be filled the second half of the budget year from January to June that the next person will have some opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, I would have thought with the vacancies, that you haven't filled, which is a good thing, knowing the situation, that you'd have some extra monies in there. Right. I would have thought. And maybe you will.
I will.
Yeah,
I will.
so we might get updated on that in December or sometime.
Sure, be more than
That'd be
happy.
great.
No other questions or comments?
Thank you.
First of all, Roger, I really appreciate your cooperation. It's spectacular, and nothing unusual, though. Thank you. That's the way you've conducted yourself always. Lee, do you have any comments you want to make, or do you think we covered it?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
Why don't you step up to the microphone?
Lee Leger, Director of Human Resources, Civil Service Commission. The postings that have come from the assessor's office have been right in line with any posting from any of our county departments or other elected offices. We receive those, we post them, and the departments recruit for them, and departments then act upon those that meet the qualifications. So we follow right down the line in our normal civil service policies for posting jobs.
Okay.
Roger or Mike, please don't leave yet because we have to go back to Board of Equalization for an item. Okay.
All right, well, thank you all very much. I appreciate the information. I'm sure there'll be ongoing questions and so forth, but I appreciate the candor of Roger Morrissey with his, in my opinion, is nothing new. As I said at the beginning, I believe he's been a really terrific county assessor, and for him to stand up here as he's leaving office and be so cordial is great. I've had the same experience, but a little more brutal. I was kind of dragged down the stairs by my ankles, so so anyway, I appreciate your being so gracious. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle. It has been brought to my attention that we do have a citizen here that did want to address our Board of Equalization. It's item E, and he would like to speak to the board, so I'm going to let him come. You are forward. Hello.
Do we need to reopen the BOE, or?
Probably, if we're going to take action. So
Yeah.
I would motion to recess out of county boards and back into Board of Equalization.
So moved. Second.
Please vote.
Sorry you had to wait so long.
That's quite all right.
We didn't
I
know.
missed the boat on that one.
No, you're
I
fine.
said, where did it go?
So if you could just state your name and address.
Terry Wynn, 2510 North 154th Street.
Okay.
Omaha. I guess I went to put my house up for sale here not too long ago, and a real estate agent came and said, man, you're getting grossly overtaxed. And I had built an addition on my house back in 2000 around that time and finished my basement at the same time, so my taxes went up, and I didn't think anything of it. I just figured that's Nebraska, you know. So anyway, when I went through the years till today, he had checked on it, and my taxes were $6,300 a year. And my neighbors were comparable houses were $4,200, $4,300. They've been yelling at me for years for getting their taxes up there because of my house. But it was that the assessor, when they came out and measured the houses and did the audit on the houses, they added 10 feet to the length of my house. And it looks like I have a copy back to 97 of the taxes. It looks like between 1999 and 2000 is where their tape measure grew. And my taxes jumped $20,000 at that time.
Evaluation.
In the valuation. Is what the taxes didn't jump. I wish they did. I'd have noticed it. But they went up from $3,200 to $3,500, jumped to $4,000 in 2001, and then went 2003 to $4,900, kept going, and they jumped pretty good increments every year. But like I say, I just kind of figured it costs $1,000 to license your car. You know, your house ought to be a little bit more. But I would like to be reimbursed back to at least 1999 on my taxes. As I haven't paid my second half's taxes this year, and they're assessing late charges and penalties and all the good stuff, but I couldn't see spending $3,200 when I only owe $1,500, you know. So I also would like to have those waived.
Okay.
I also don't want Pam to vote. She's always a no.
I'll get a phone call for her and get it out of her.
I'll take Mikey's phone call.
That's great.
Well, thank you for that.
That's all right. That's a good job.
Commissioner Boyle.
I did give some information to Teresa Urick as our legal counsel, to ask her to give her a little heads up before this happened. Teresa, will you tell us what the law is on refunding taxes?
Thank you, Commissioner Boyle. Teresa York, County Attorney's Office. I believe the look back is 3 years from the date the tax was due, and I believe that the board already voted on the last 3 years to make the correction for the square footage.
So he's entitled under the law to 3 years?
I believe the look back is 3 years from the date the tax was due.
Okay, well, we need to figure out something that's fair, and I don't think that's fair. What can we do, Ms. Urick? Anything, or are we limited?
Well, under that section, the taxpayer cannot challenge the valuation under that section, so that's not an option, and it does specifically limit the board to the 3-year look back.
Can I, are you done?
Oh, yeah, I'm through.
Well,
Go ahead.
I guess here it is, one of these where we know, and I'm assuming it's a fact, we know that his house was measured wrong by us. And so we're not, I mean, Mike, can you come forward just for a second?
Yeah, I want to be sure that's correct.
I mean, we as the county have admitted that we wrongly measured his house since that time.
Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor. Yeah, that's why we have it on the board agenda, to correct it back to 3 years that we can correct it to.
Right.
This is going to sound really hard, and I don't mean it to sound harsh, but part of what's built into the system is the recognition that the taxpayer is a pretty good barometer of where his value or her value happens to be. And I think there's some reliance that if a value has gone on for years and years and years and nobody's filed a protest, that at least they're all right with the value. And I think that's at least part of the justification for that 3-year look back on tax refunds. That if the pebble in the shoe hurt enough, people would have protested, and it wouldn't have gotten beyond 3 years. Now, I know that's probably not a very adequate answer for Mr. Wynn, and it may not even satisfy the board members. But I do think that that's probably why the refund window is limited to 3 years. Otherwise, you'd have people coming out of the woodwork and you know, back in 1940, they had an addition on my house that wasn't there, kind of thing.
Well, and I guess this is where I'm going to sound harsh to people who are doing the county jobs, is
Sure.
that there's some responsibility, at least on our part, that if it was a blatant mistake, and it was a mistake, that we added too much to that property, then we should fix it. Now, your argument, which I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm just trying to say that a taxpayer in your scenario, I would say right now the sentiment of trying to come and fight government is not real positive. And so I can understand why a taxpayer would just say, you know, why even bother? Why waste my time? They're not going to listen to me, blah, blah, blah. So I can kind of sympathize with the taxpayer.
No, and Commissioner, I understand that too. What I'm simply saying is,
I know we can only do the 3 years, and that's what you've brought to the attention. All I'm saying is that this is a wrong, and maybe again, this is a legislative item that we talk about. Sorry, Claire. Legislative item we talk about that I can understand where if there's not a, and I don't want to use the word blatant in a negative, but if there's not a, if there's, where a taxpayer is just complaining about their value are protesting their value, that's different. They don't think that that value's right, versus us putting additional footage on a property that makes that value go up. To me, there's a difference. And so, I mean, again, I guess we could talk about it legislatively as a change that needs to occur. I don't think you would have every taxpayer up before us, but when you do have one that is for sure, without a doubt, solid, that we made the mistake, we should fix it. Commissioner Duda?
Thank you. I just want to clarify, I mean, we have taken action regarding this property today, right? I mean, we approved the
3 years.
The correction, and decreased the value going back 3 years, and that's all the law allows us to do. Am I
right?
Correct. So what are we debating?
Fairness.
Doing more than the law allows us to do?
Fairness.
Well, fair or not, I think we kind of have to follow the law.
Well, excuse me, would it be possible for me not to pay my taxes for, let's say, 16 years, and you collect 3 years of it at the end of that time? And the thing is if, had I not added onto my house $30,000 worth, finished my basement, that's probably $30,000 worth, and then my taxes go up that much, if I hadn't done that, I would have probably thought something. But when I added on my house, I don't know what you charge. I pay, like I say, license plates are $1,500, $2,000 for my license plates on my truck. Go to Missouri and get those no-name plates for $38.50. You know,
Mr. Wynn, it's not that I'm not sympathetic to your
it-
situation, but I am saying I think we are compelled to follow the law. Regardless of what we want to do, we need to follow the law.
I think you are, and that would be putting somebody on the end of a tape measure and measure a house and not put it on your website as it being 61 foot when it's actually, and every other house around is 51. How would you go measure this house 51 that's a ranch and then go right next door and measure one that's 61 in an area that don't, that's across the street in Huntington Park?
Again, I'm sorry for the situation you find yourselves in, but we are constrained by following the law. That's all I'm saying, is we got to follow the law.
So I guess the law is what's written down. That's a law that you over-evaluated a house, not you over-measured. But it isn't the same. That is not the same, what you're putting that in, and I'm sure an attorney probably would figure out what wasn't the same.
Okay. I apologize for seeming argumentative with you. My whole stand is we got to follow the law.
I know what you're saying. I just I can't see it being the law. Laws aren't one way. It's the same way for me, you know. I mean, I'm going to go down and pay my taxes. They're going to get charged me $188 a late charge because I haven't paid my second half. They're assessing them. How can you assess a penalty on me and I can't assess one on you? I guess. Law or not. You can't make, I don't see how you can make a one-sided law.
We don't make any laws. We simply follow the laws.
Somebody made them.
Right.
You know, somebody makes them.
Commissioner Tusha?
By the way, this is one of the times I voted yes.
I
so
know,
I
and that's what I figured you probably would. I just wanted to be fair to them.
Normally I would vote no. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I do have a question though, Mike. I just have a quick question. If we approve the decreased values for the 12, 13, and 14 years, and even though he hasn't paid his taxes and he's getting penalties, but being as we decreased him, so we're kind of saying yes, you know, we made a tad bit of mistake, but we can only go back 3 years. Is there any way we can waive the fees?
Just say yes.
I don't care about those fees.
I know, but it's
Nor do
still.
I.
There's no statute that prohibits you from doing that the way it exists in, for example, the personal property statutes. My suspicion is that the practice of the Treasurer's Office is when you have a reduction like that and they're reducing the tax, the value gets reduced and the taxes are getting reduced, that I think they have some little discretion to do that.
Okay, that's something I'd like to at least consider. I mean, I know you're more concerned about the 3 years, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
at least if we could do something like waiving the fees, and that way I wouldn't be breaking any laws or rules, so I'd
No,
be voting properly.
My wife pays those taxes, and chances are she'd waive them herself when she did, so it wouldn't matter. It's that's not a worry. It's just $30,000 is more of a worry.
I know, but I
lower
still
payment,
think,
you
if
know.
we could do something with the fees on the note that we are decreasing the values for the last 3 years. If we could just at least look into that. Thank you.
Commissioner Boyle?
Well, I have to speak to something Mr. Goodwill said that, I don't think there'll be anybody coming back to us from 1940 or previous years, and I know what you were talking about. You folks don't do this very often. I don't remember. This is probably the second one that I remember in all the years I've been here. You folks don't mess up much on these things. So, I mean, I really think, you really don't.
Well, that's a nice vote of confidence.
It is.
I can tell you in the time I've been in my position, we've gotten, and I can't quantify it, but we've gotten a fair number of letters with this kind of argument going back to years and years and years and years, believe it or not.
Well, the other thing I'm curious about, Mr. Wynn mentioned that he remodeled the basement. Are basements included in assessments?
Yes.
How?
Well, wait a minute. Let him answer.
Well, no. They're not normally considered living space in the same way above ground is.
So,
my understanding from our appraisals.
if he got assessed,
there's probably a value assigned to them, but it isn't the same as above grade living space.
but I mean, that wouldn't have triggered this increase.
I don't think it was the basement issue, it was the sunroom, I think.
The sunroom and the basement.
There's an addition
were-
off the back that was added.
Because I remember it, and it's really funny that back then when they was doing my house, I worked a lot of hours back then, so I was actually laying down in the afternoon, and they came into my backyard. They had rang the doorbell, woke me up, but I didn't bother to get up, and then they had come into my backyard and they were looking into the basement, and the lady, there was two of them, there was a man and a woman, and they went up my stairs to my addition to look inside of the door that was right by my bedroom window, and she's telling the man, come up here and look at this. And he was in my basement looking in there to see if it was finished and stuff, which I suppose, I don't know what they do. I wasn't up and armed, so I, but that is what happened at that time. I remember that very well. But so they did appraise on my basement. It is a lesser amount when they assess your basement, same as if you go to sell the house, it's a less amount that you get to sell.
Well, I guess what I'm driving at is that, there ought to be, maybe there ought to be something when a taxpayer notices this. I mean, when the information comes to his or her attention as opposed to an absolute, 3 years, that sort of thing. Because when he did the addition, he wasn't surprised when his taxes went up. I mean, it wasn't like the house was sitting there and suddenly it went up with no addition. I mean, he did something that brought on an additional assessment, and he wasn't shocked by it. He wasn't, well, that's the way it is. And then, he figured it out, paid attention to it later. He was paying the taxes all the time, and for whatever reason became curious, neighbors complaining, whatever it was, and discovered this. Did you bring this to the assessor?
I did. My real estate agent, when I was selling my house here just a couple of months ago, or a month and a half, I think, is when I called your office, and they had said I had to wait till next June.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you that, unfortunately, there is a law that covers this very clearly, and I've been walking around talking to our attorneys back here trying to weasel some way out of what happened. Commissioner Duda is correct. We really are limited by what we did today. And I don't know if there's any other relief. The statute speaks apparently pretty clearly about this situation. I don't know that, an attorney could come in and file a claim against the county for some such thing. I don't know. Maybe, I just don't know what to tell you. I'm not encouraging you to sue the county, but I think it's really...
It would be worth checking.
It's really it's very unfair, and I wish it hadn't happened.
Yeah, it is, or what it is.
Commissioner Morgan?
Let me ask you a question. Did you sell your house?
No, everybody that looked at it pretty much they went, $6,300. No, they went, no, I didn't. I got one person looked at it. So I took it off the market. And
And
no,
you don't
can't
even
sell
have to
my
tell
house.
me, but what do we have it assessed at, Mr. Goodwillie? Or maybe Mr. Wynn knows what it's assessed at?
Well, yeah, I do.
It's got to be around 280,000 or something?
We had it, it looks like we had it at 269, and now it's coming down to 246.2.
269. You don't have to answer. I sympathize with what you stated in the situation. What's it been listed at?
The last listing was 245.
And it didn't sell?
Originally, it was way up, you know.
And it didn't sell?
No.
And is it on the market anymore?
No.
All right, now you haven't paid some taxes and there's some penalties.
Right. So.
My question might be, and I assume you want to pay your taxes because you have a lien and you have to pay them someday.
Yeah, 15 years.
Is there any way we could waive those numbers to say, hey, pay your taxes next week, and you're not going to pay that interest and that penalty?
Can we do that?
Pam just asked that.
Oh.
And Mike said,
They had already discussed that, and like I said, if that happens, that's fine. Otherwise, I don't mind. That's $188. It's like...
Yeah, but it's
you know,
still... I don't know if we could waive it. Teresa's probably the best one to answer that eventually.
Teresa?
Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. I think the law is pretty clear on this. The law that addresses it talks about clerical error or honest mistake or misunderstanding and does provide the 3-year look back. And so a vote otherwise would be in contravention of that law, going back further than 3 years. And the board should consider that in carrying out its official duties, the members of the board should follow the law at all times. And I'd have to look at whether or not that might expose the board to any liability if they took a position that was directly in contravention of the law.
If we waive that.
No, I'm not speaking directly to the penalties, Commissioner Morgan. I was speaking more to the refund itself. With regard to the penalties, I took Mr. Wynn to, if I understood what he was saying, is I think he's in negotiations with the assessor's office, or did I misunderstand what you said,
I'm
sir?
not in any negotiations.
Okay, I didn't understand that.
They have actually lowered my, apparently, I think today, you guys voted to lower my
For the 3
value
years.
for 3 years. I guess how many times in 16 years would they physically go to my property and look at it?
I've got a comment, and maybe
Go ahead.
something to pass. Roger Morrissey, County Assessor. Now, we have it assessed, we've lowered the assessment to what now? Okay, there we go. 246. And you couldn't sell it for?
245, but
245.
we only had it on there a couple of weeks at 245, and I just...
Okay. If we corrected the value to 235 and made that recommendation, then he saves, he can, on the interest and some other alternatives, and I'm following kind of, I think, with the way Commissioner Morgan was heading and trying to meet, like Commissioner Boyle said, the fairness issue, then you have that opportunity, and I've got no problem with that. So that number might be a good compromise for...
It might be a headache for you with my neighbors.
Well...
Because my house...
No, but it's not going to be a headache because truthfully, if you've been trying to sell it at 245, they weren't lined up to buy it.
It will.
Roger's really correct. It may not sell for 235 for all we know. Usually if a home's listed at 245, they're offering 232 or less. So I think Roger's right on, and if we could do that, I think that's a good thing to do. And I think what Claire said, and I know none of us want to always do exactly what the law says, but that's what we're here for, and that's what we agree to do when we're elected to office is, you know, so, Roger, that would be great.
Okay, Commissioner Kraft?
I believe what we need to do is make a motion to reconsider, and then a motion to reduce it further. So it'll take 2 votes.
Do we need those
Does that
votes?
sound correct?
Therese?
Teresa, your county
For
attorney's
Roger to
office.
do that reduction, or do you?
No, I just would make that recommendation from the assessor's office. We made a recommendation to you for 246. I'm amending that recommendation based on the information that the gentleman's brought forward to 235, or whatever you feel is fair in that range. But I think going along with what he's discussed here, he's brought some information in that we go with that 235, and that's here again, it's an opinion of value, and like PJ, you know, market values are range, not a point
Right.
estimate.
I would make the motion to accept Roger Morrissey, the assessor's recommendation, and reduce it down to the 235.
Commissioner Duda?
However, before you do that, that does not mean that I won't pursue after you do that.
No.
That past the 3 years, I'm not really keen on that.
I understand.
So
That's fine.
With that said, and I appreciate that.
And I appreciate your candidness.
So,
Commissioner Duda?
I think procedurally, I'm supportive of what you're suggesting here, Commissioner Morgan. But I think that Mark is right, that we have already voted on this item and set the value on it. And before we can reconsider, before we could change that value, I think we first have to have a motion rescinding that first vote.
Okay.
Motion to reconsider.
Just second.
To rescind.
Teresa?
Teresa, your county attorney's office, I was just going to speak to the procedural aspects of that. You have voted on it today. It would require, rather than a new motion, it would require a motion to reconsider, or I'm not sure how that's different procedurally in this context for a motion to rescind. Motion to reconsider would re-bring it back up before the board today. And then you'd need the motion, I think, to modify from the 246 down to the 235. And if I understand what the board is considering, it's still, you're confining it to the 3 years allowed by law.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made a motion to
Reconsider.
CAC 14113.
CAC
And I second it.
14113. Okay. And we have a,
Please vote.
Correct.
I will now make a motion to accept the assessor's recommendation and to reduce the value further to $235,000.
I second that.
Please vote.
And sir, this vote in no way limits your ability to pursue.
thank you.
Yes, please.
And adjourn, yes, absolutely.
Do we need an executive session?
Yeah, we do, but I'm not
Now
there.
we're reconvening.
Thank you.
A motion to reconvene
Thank you.
the Douglas County Board of Commissioners.
Okay, before,
Second, to reconvene as a board.
okay. Please vote.
We count on Ellen's flying fingers here.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you. Okay, we do have need for executive session for litigation, but before we do that, I need to make a few announcements. The Child and Youth Services Committee meeting that was scheduled for today immediately following the board meeting in room 903 has been canceled. Chris, has this been
Yeah,
adjourned new date?
I called Karen, she's got it. There was nothing pressing, so there's no need to push it
Okay,
back. Yeah.
so for future meetings. Second of all, notice, commissioners will not meet on Tuesday, October 14th. The next scheduled meeting of the commissioners will be Tuesday, October 21st, and the Douglas County offices will be closed Monday, October 13th, in observance for Columbus Day. So again, we do need a motion to go into, I'm sorry, Chris?
Wait a minute.
Did you have something?
No,
Okay. We need a motion to move into executive session.
For the purpose.
Litigation.
And also,
I might bring up a personnel matter.
Okay, litigation and personnel matter.
Commissioners,
Can you do that?
can I do that, Patrick?
we have to see if it's on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, you can't.
No, it's not.
It's,
So we can't.
okay. So just Commissioner Boyle?
It's really odd that you say that. I circled this because I think we need to add personnel matters. It ought to be all-encompassing so that we can do things, that it covers all these issues.
I'll have to check. I don't know that you can do that unless, I don't think you can put that on the agenda unless you actually know that you have something to
Okay,
speak about.
are we talking about labor negotiations today?
Litigation.
No, we're not
Litigation.
talking about labor negotiations, but that's on the agenda. So why can't we have
I will,
personnel?
yes, I will check that, Commissioner, and if that is the case, then absolutely we'll put that on every county board
I
meeting.
think we should. I mean, those things come up quickly, and we're not doing labor negotiations, and that's on the agenda. So anyway, just a point. I'd like to see that handled. Thank you.
So Patrick, is it just litigation, or we're going to do litigation and labor negotiation?
No, it's just litigation.
Okay, so executive session for litigation. Do you have a first and a second?
There's a motion.
Okay, please vote. Thank you.
That's great. It's not abandoning.
Motion to reconvene.
And adjourn. Second.
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Ellen. Marcos. You got plenty of time for this.
Okay.
But will you do a resolution?
Above the fruited plain, America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty, above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.